Welcome, everyone, this is your friend, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of, what if Tony Stark's world got a new spider? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. There's a thing about people and their vision of power. Some want power to rule people. Others want power to make them fear you. Then there's people who fight fear using their power to keep people's hopes up. Heroes, that's the term people use. I on the other hand believe that if a person with power can do something to help, they should do it. But life isn't like this. If you have the power to stop people from getting hurt, you should take that step. I don't really know why I do what I do, but my life is regular as the best way to describe it. It's a boring regular life. I'm a regular guy, skinny, healthy-ish, with an average height. I worked in the desk job at a large company where you're just a number, no names, just a number to determine who you are. I just felt a pull on my arm and seconds later everything stopped working, pain exploded from my chest, my mind went blank and I knew that it was my time. The last thought I had was the one of my grandmother being diagnosed with a deadly cardiac disease, necrotic myocardio. A heart disease that makes your heart die really fast if not treated. Oh, was my last word. No last words. Nothing. Just me lying in the ground as people looked like they were worried about me. My eyes saw darkness as my head and chest were in pain. So boring. Looking back to my life, I can only say one thing about. I graduated top of the class, valedictorian with 2 degrees. But I had no friends, and estranged family, no father, only mother and my brother. I was alone. Will they miss me? Will mom cry? Or be sad? Nah, maybe they won't. After all, we ended up in different sides of the argument, each on their own. After a long time in darkness, I slowly felt myself lose the conscious thoughts that made sense. Touch, smell, taste, sounds. Everything dimmed down like a candle reaching its end. But as fast the lights went out, they came back in, only this time they were bright and unfocused. My senses came to me in seconds, everything at once, pressure, relief, warmth, cold, then warmth again. My skin felt like it was really sensitive to everything around me. It's weird because I feel as if I'm in the backseat of my mind and my abilities to think are slowly dimming, like something is pushing my thoughts down. Not exactly deleting them, but making it become dormant, slowing down my thoughts, as if watching someone fall asleep. I try grasping for straws, but just as fast, those thoughts dissipated, my memories placed in a safe inside my mind. Only thing left is my consciousness and my senses. WTLL you do? A voice I didn't recognize said aloud. And no, I had TEC re-aver. A woman's voice sounded so close to me. As she came closer, my ears were able to understand. She looks like me, but I don't have the ability to take care of her. The same voice rumbled. I didn't hear her voice, I felt her speak. It's English, but what's English and how do I know it? We take her to the fire department, it's around here. It's a crime to leave a baby abandoned there. No, if you leave it in a government building or public service. Next thing I knew, I was being left in a small box wrapped in blankets that were uncomfortable, which made me complain. The whole sky is dark and other blurry lights. I could hear a bark, loud yet far. I feel nervous, my body is not responding, I can't move. I can't do anything except babble in a call for help. Did you guys remember to give Cindy her meal? I heard it far, it's a babble, but I made out the words. Not really how far, since this makes no sense. I could hear something moving the box and then a bark that could have been thunder for all I knew. What's wrong, Cindy? I heard a male voice that sounded too rough. I let out a small cry from my lips, not like I could make words. My mouth is too unresponsive to me. Oh shit. Scott, get here now. I heard how he yelled out, it was deafening. I whimpered in fear. I could see how giant hands went to me. I tried to fight, but the blankets were too obstructing. It's okay, little one, you're okay. I heard his voice rumble. He placed me near his chest, which is warm and comforting. Boss, what the fuck? I let out a groan from the peace I was getting. Don't yell, Scott, she was in that box, Cindy found her. Look for a note. The silence returned and I was slowly easing up as my eyes were slowly drifting from the tiredness in them. No note, boss, someone left her here and only left a box and those blankets. The man came close to me. Sorry, little one, but life is hard, make sure to fight it with tooth and nail. He said as my eyes cleared a bit. He has blonde hair and green eyes. We had to take her to the nearest orphanage, she can't stay here. Yeah. No baby can stay here. The other guy said, but did he say baby? It suddenly dawned on me. No movement control, no tongue control, blurry things and my ears barely work. I'm a fucking baby. At that moment I bawled and cried until my heart was out. Shush, it's okay. Cindy. Yeah, you look like a Cindy. I grimaced at the name. I have a vague feeling that wasn't right. I remember having short hair and being a male. I think. I cried harder until I fell into a peaceful slumber. It's been a year of being here. I hate how my life is right now. I hate the fact that I don't know why I feel uncomfortable. Everything I do is sluggish. I feel useless. And worst of all, I hate this place, the cradle. It took me a few months to learn how to walk. Again. I can only sigh as my life will be really hard. I was reborn into a girl's body, but I do have one advantage, and that is that I'm in America, a land where I grew. English is still foreign to my tongue since it doesn't go long after just babbles and incoherent words. The orphanage, which is a place I can only describe as gloomy, is one of the places that I can describe as rundown. I get food because apparently the matriarch likes me since I'm a baby. I'm fed and bathed, something normal for a baby. But I hate how everything is foreign to me, how every single person and thing are much bigger than me. The reason why I came to hate this place is the treatment. How some kids look at me in disgust and jealousy. I do try to cheer them up by smiling, which are still gums with teeth coming out slowly. I can only describe life here as hard. It's been 3 years of me staying here. I can move and speak. I can also read, which a real relief to me is. I was so disconnected from the outside world. I was in the group of kids my age, mostly 3-year-olds who were ordered to draw and not get out of the edges. It's retarded. I feel so stupid, as if I knew I was smarter than all these kids. Cindy, can you hand me that newspaper? I looked up, remembering how my name is Cindy, no last name. I stretched my small arm and looked at the date. November 12, 1995. Wait, 1995, wasn't that almost 20 years ago? Why 20? I felt my head beginning to spin. I remember a little boy, getting bullied, making friends, then loneliness, then a discussion, and then him falling into the ground clutching his chest. Ah! I felt years returning to me, as if it was in a safe that burst from the pressure filling my head, but only a really small section. I remember math, books, songs, movies, TV shows. I opened my eyes, which didn't feel like they were closed, but it all became so clear. It's like things became simpler, easier from a mental standpoint. Cindy, sweetie, are you okay? I looked up as I felt something warm ran down my nose. I could hear a girl freaking out from the sight, as well as another kid saying, "Gross," in the background, but it was slowly coming back to me. "Oh my, come here, sweetie," the woman said as I stood up slowly and a tissue was placed under my nose. "What happened? Did you get hit?" Miss Patty said in worry. "No, I feel weird. My head hurt, but now no, I feel clearer. I feel fine, but with a little headache." "All right, Cindy, just keep this in your nose," she placed. It happened so suddenly, the change was palpable. I was smarter. But my brain felt different. I was overall a target. I didn't realize how. This place is horrible and I've wanted to get out of here with all my soul, but it doesn't matter what I do, no family wants to adopt me. At age 4 I was sent to the room with the other girls. I realized that I have nothing to my name. Everything comes from the orphanage. Only a fancy dress for when I get adopted, but it doesn't feel right. Couples didn't want me as a baby. Why would they want me now? I developed the thought of seeing myself as an ugly kid. I mean, everyone likes a cute kid. Those get adopted right away, yet I stayed. But I didn't give up. When people were scheduled to come to the orphanage, I was up first, at 6 a.m. sharp. I was awake and taking a shower a minute later and preparing myself, hoping with my heart that I would get a family like the one I lost. I remember those days, the birthdays I had as a kid, when we were a family before the argument. Those were saved for when I felt hopeless, when this life becomes too much. The first day of school, this is where all the other kids in the orphanage go. I excelled in math and science. Everything was so easy. But there was something different, history. No drastic changes, but one thing that I thought like a joke. Captain America. The book mentioned once in the book. I dismissed it as it was only one paragraph. I didn't really care as I knew history, but I had to read everything once and that would be it. So I did the next best thing. I got permission by the matron to go to the library with one of the adults who supervised. It ended up with me cleaning all the dishes for 2 weeks in order for me to be let out to the library with an adult. My knowledge in engineering allowed me to understand heavy topics, which I was happy to go over once again. For a while I knew the people in the orphanage suspected I was a small genius. They had no idea what I actually was. This new life granted me the ability to remember everything, good days, bad days, everything. But it all changed on the moment I read how a certain Howard Stark was the head researcher in the revolution of technology in the 1940s and onward. How he participated in the creation of the Manhattan Project as well as his descendant, under the name of Tony Stark. A man who is supposed to be Iron Man. I freaked out that day. It came in a flash, those movies I saw. All the characters, events, catastrophes, fights, everything got ingrained into my brain. But my thirst for knowledge just grew bigger. I know a genius made an armor out of metal scraps and car batteries. Can we go see Tony Stark to the Stark Expo? It's the last one. Because Howard died almost 10 years ago. I asked to one of the workers who came and went, as I held a book pointing at a paragraph that talked about the expo itself. Also, I wanted to see not the creations Howard left behind after being killed by Hydra. I need to at least get to try to get an arc reactor, dismantle it and get the hell out of here. But I got rejected from the start. They said it was a long and expensive trip. I begged, literally begged in my knees, expecting for an answer. I even pulled the heartstrings of the matron by saying that I would be a good girl if I went to the expo. After 3 whole weeks of begging and 4 months of dishwashing and washing clothes, they relented. I was ecstatic from getting the chance to see Howard and Tony Stark's inventions. I could try and talk to Tony. But that is a whole can of worms. It's his last expo and it will be my chance to get something that I desperately need. A way out. And that day came. It was only me and a few kids as well as the supervisor, whose name is Sally, a volunteer college student who looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. Which gives me the chance to get my way on doing things. AKA steal a plan of something Tony and everyone else considers trash. As we were on the way taking the bus to the expo on Manhattan, I remembered that it only took one glance on the arc reactor schematics. Actually, I could try and remember Iron Man 2 and start from there, but that is plan B. As we descended from the bus, Sally began explaining. Okay kids, we will be going together and don't you separate yourselves. If you do, get to a security guard and tell them that you are to wait until the end of the expo around 5 in the exit number 5. 5 of 5. We will follow the buddy system, but we're 7 in total. I looked to my left to see everyone already had a buddy giving me dirty looks. Even Sally had Molly, a girl a year older that hates my guts. I'm safe from the freak, thank God, Molly said in relief. Ouch, I'm not a freak. I'm just smarter than any of you, and any of you will ever be. It's alright, I can go by myself. I remember everything I see, so don't worry about me, I can handle myself. I said in a confident tone and my gaze never faltering. This would make me as confident in my words and I would make a bond with Sally, who shrugged and gave me the go-ahead. I received the badge and I was free to do what I wanted, which meant my mission began. After a few minutes of walking around looking at the mechanics and everything, it's awesome. I had a major in electrical and mechanical engineering before dying trying for a master on physics. But I can only say that things here are awesome but outdated as hell. I looked at the exposition for Howard Stark. Looking around, I analyzed the patterns of the guards and the entry points. There are 3 guards, one for each important part in the expo for no one to get backstage. But I can make a distraction. I looked at the closest things from me. A machine that is supposed to give better signal for TVs, what looks like a portable and unpractical telephone, and lastly an engine for a new car which is supposed to be a 1999 Ford truck that is supposed to come later this year, from the pickup truck parked beside it. My grin grew at the sight of the engine working. From my knowledge I know 2 things: if the electrical input in an engine overloads, the rest of the engine is stimulated to go faster. But if a single cable is outplaced just 2 inches to the side, then it overloads and works as if the car is constantly pushing the pedal. As the guards were distracted, I enacted my plan, amping up the current by first moving the cable and bending it the right way for it to be stuck, and still stimulated the electrical output by changing the battery that it's connected to give current directly to the rubber on the other cable. It will not blow up, it will just short circuit. I know this by heart because I did it twice, once in accident, the second one to make sure it worked like that. As the engine revved up, I was out of sight and was standing watching engineers try to see why the engine began revving up even when the cable was set in place, which made start a new cycle of electrical current with more power. The noise is deafening and guards turned heads towards that place, giving me my chance. As I walked backstage, I kept to the shadows as I learned before. For a fact, I know Tony is supposed to not be here since he was recently spotted in a conference in another place. For a fact, I know the blueprints have to be stored near here. I could see a mantle covering something that has the shape of a giant arc reactor. Looking around once again, I heard the pop of the engine, which made heads turn and giving my chance to move. I was under the mantle in seconds. Looking at it was amazing. It's gigantic but useless as of right now, it's just glowing. I heard a man yelling, "What the hell is going on? People are already making a mess, and where is Tony?" Looking at the detail of the invention was enough to get the idea in my head, but I need a blueprint to know exactly what I need. Which most are mainly stored in the lab and a copy, in somewhere I don't know. But for this to be here and not in California where the story takes place, it had to be built here. And to my luck, beside the mantle I could see my target. A big desk with a lamp and a design that resembled the arc reactor. If those weren't it, then the words, arc reactor, at the top were just wrong. People began moving again after the noise was resolved. I walked slowly and saw a chair just below my height, not tall enough for me to sit, but I'm nimble enough to make it to the table. I moved from the shadows and dashed to the table where the blueprint is. I heard someone shout at me, "Hey!" I ignored it and climbed on the chair and had my clear look at the blueprints, instructions and notes directly from Howard's hands: palladium, copper wire, glass, a conductive material as base and a kick to start the cycle. Basically I could produce this for energy, and from the notes the amperage it creates is off the chains. I could make a battery that would never run out of power. I memorized every detail to heart, every nook, cranny and bent and crumpled pieces. Due to having my memory I could remember it after a glance, but I had to analyze it. I smiled widely at the invention and it was within my reach. I couldn't take it, but I could memorize it. "Kid!" I jumped in the scare, falling from the chair, but strong arms caught me before I face planted to the ground. "What are you doing, kid?" Obadiah Stane as his badge stated, and he looks like a younger Jeff Bridges. I got lost. I pulled my most innocent face and used what little cuteness I had. "Oh really?" He clearly does not believe me. "Yes." I could only face palm myself from how stupid my answers are. "And did you get lost standing on top of a chair that has blueprints that are from an invention?" "It's made by Howard Stark. I'm a huge fan. He revolutionized the mechanical enterprises. His researches and published papers are awesome." "So you can understand his gibberish?" "It's not gibberish, it's smart people talk." I defended, not realizing I just insulted him. "Oh, so you're telling me you're smart? I am definitely walking on thin ice." "I didn't say that, it's just that I like to read about machines since they're better than talking to people. At least machines don't talk down to me or insult me." I didn't expect that to come out. Guess my isolation is taking its effect on my psyche. He looked at me with doubt. "Does this even work?" I asked, trying to make myself just a curious lost child. Obadiah is also an ignorant. "No, it's just light, a really fancy and expensive lamp." "You're an idiot, this thing has a lot of power." "I think it's pretty. You know, kid, you like Howard's inventions, right?" I nodded shyly, attempting for him to either give me the blueprints as a gift or for me to leave. "I'm no one, just a kid who has nothing to her name," I admitted as I looked at the blueprints with longing. "You're an orphan?" "Yes, I got abandoned after I was born. I have nothing, just things the orphanage hands me down from previous kids. I begged here for a whole month to just be able to come here, and I'm here because it's my birthday and the entrance is just $1. I admitted, it hurt, it's painful that I don't have anything that I can call mine, unlike my previous life where I was blessed with many things. "Then here, a gift for your birthday." He just pulled the blueprints into a roll and stored it into the tube that was sitting beside the table and gave it to me. "And here's a card if in the future you want to work in Stark Industries." He gave me a card and in the back wrote his name and signature. "Really? Don't you need this for like dismantling?" "No, the blueprint is just a copy and this was shipped from California. As soon as this is done this will be shipped back. When you're older present that card and they'll give you a job. Guard, take her from here and let her keep the tube, it's a present." And with that he walked away, and in his place stood a guard. "You shouldn't be here, kid. You're lucky he found you snooping around and not me, or you would be in deep trouble, little lady." I jumped out of the seat and took the hand he offered. He took me to the expo once again and left me there as he returned to his post. Even a better result than what I expected. The day couldn't get me down no matter what. I loves the expo, even the cheesy movie reel that was of Howard making the inauguration. As 5 in the evening rolled around, I saw everything and I began approaching the 5th gate, and I was so happy. "Hello Cindy. Did you get bored?" Sally said as she came along with, I think her name is Ellie. "No, it was amazing. All the inventions, and I got this." I smiled proudly at my gift. "Oh, so weird like you. What is that?" Ellie asked, which I ignored. "Ellie, that's mean you shouldn't insult others. And Cindy, what is in it?" "It's a blueprint for a light." I kept my intelligence hidden behind the child naivete. "Oh, that's nice," Sally said with a smile that I know it's fake and a tone that indicated that she was tired as we reached the. "Finally, Sally, can we leave?" The kid that was with Molly complained aloud. "Yeah, this place is boring. Everything here is so weird like the freak," Molly said in a mocking tone. "Okay, ouch, I know she doesn't like me, but shit, she's flat out cruel." Her eyes narrowed on me. "What is that? Did you stole it?" Everyone's eyes turned to me. "No, I met a man, his name is Obadiah Stane, and he worked with Howard Stark, and he gifted me this," I said defensively. To my surprise, her eyes honed in on the tube in my back, clear with jealousy and hate. After everyone walked inside the orphanage, it was already 6 in the afternoon, which meant that everyone should take a shower and be ready for dinner. I was smiling wide, feeling immense happiness. "Cindy, I take it you had fun?" the matriarch asked as we walked inside. "Yes, it was amazing. And they gave me this. It's a gift," he also said. "When I grow up I could work on Stark Industries." I showed her the blueprint and the card he gave me, which had the signature and recommendation for SI. "That's really good for you, kid. I'm happy." With that, she walked into the kitchen where the table was empty. I walked behind her. "She wants to see the blueprint." I walked behind her and opened the tube and extended it on the table. "I could read this like a book, not just from memory." "It's beautiful," I said without thinking, looking at the details of the reactor. I began muttering calculations, knowing I could make a small one, but it would take me around 2 or 3 years. I began running through memories of things that I could get. Die. Indy. Cindy. A snap of fingers in my face broke me out of my stupor. "Sorry, I wasn't listening," I said in shame. "It's all right, you can keep it, but why do you think it's beautiful?" "Because of the energy it produces. This produces," she placed a hand in front of me. "I won't understand. You're smart, but you need to stay focused. We don't have resources to be making this types of things." "You won't have to. I will make sure everything is free," she sighed in annoyance. "Fine, but you have to keep that thing safe. It's your things and you should keep it close to you like the rest of your things." "Yes, I will, thanks matriarch," I said as I folded the blueprint carefully and stored it in the tube canister thing. A few days later, I was reading a book on advanced electronics that was for college students. It's a boring read, but it did give me a certain insight in how the reactor works. I could figure it out, if I had the materials to build it. I also learned to never leave my blueprints without me watching them or under lock. Also, I only look at them when I am sure no one else can do anything bad to them. Right now I'm using my head while I keep the tube under lock that has a trunk with all my clothes. "Hey freak." Molly's voice came from behind me. "What is that blue thing you had in your trunk? Is it alien talk? Are you talking to your freaky alien parents?" I could only groan. "Maybe she's an alien and her parents left her here. That's why she's so smart. She's just an alien." I heard the blue thing are messages. All those things were so stupid. "Are you even listening, alien freak?" Molly placed herself in front of me while pulling the edges of her eyes to make them look Asian, like my eyes. "Yes, but I'm not paying attention to you. It shows that everyone are just an insult to science," I said in a cold tone to get them to get oof of my face. But to my surprise, she slammed the book I had out of my hands. "Electromagnetic fields and irradiation." What is this? More things, you alien freak like? Clearly Molly has beef with me, yet I don't know why. Electromagnetic fields and irradiation on electrical impulses. It's a book more advanced than what you will ever read. Go back to your fairy tales, I said as I picked up the book. As I stood up, I got a push to the ground which made a lot of kids cheer on. I stood up, not caring for the shove, and made my way to another place. "You scared freak," I stopped for a second considering if it was worth punching a kid, but fought against the urge. I kept walking. Alien chicken. No, even better, she's a freaky alien chicken. And so the chance began. I felt tears in my eyes. I began reciting the components for the arc reactor. They helped me calm down and look on the bright side. They gave me hope that one day I would be out of this hellhole. I wasn't expecting a horrible thing to happen to me, or how I would face a greater loss in my life. It was a cloudy day, a day that indicated that things were just as bleak and dull as this orphanage. In the past life I thought that these days were days to lazy around and not do much. Today they have a different meaning, a meaning of loss and how hope can die in a single second. But I try to cheer myself up by staying by myself reading the first tome on mechanical principles. It's really awesome how I can keep reading this from the library. I have a suspicion that the matriarch likes me because she knows I'm smart, and by being smart, I can do what I want because adults don't know how to handle genius kids. It earns me a free pass. Today is Saturday. I'm just happy reading the book. I could just siphon through it and remember, but I do want to spend my time reading. The rain cleared a few hours ago, so I had the chance to go outside, sit on a bench in the porch that leads to the backyard and read. It's refreshing to feel not glued to a phone or a computer. It's liberating for me to feel this way. Relaxed reading on mechanical uses and principles. Chicken alien freak. 3 shadows are covering my light for reading. The sun is barely out, not seen, but the sky is gray. The smell of wet dirt makes me feel comfortable, a warning as if it was about to rain. Molly, what do you want? I asked as I sighed and looked at the page in my book. Page 155. I looked up to see her, but she seems cocky, even pleased. Well, I find out what has that weird-looking blue paper on the tube, she said as she just opened her hand so I could see my lock, but it's broken. Someone smacked it. I felt my blood run cold. This is my lock. She let it fall down to the floor. Yes. Hey James, are you ready? James is a kid that is older and bigger than others. He's 7 and Molly is 5, but he's a mindless grunt. A stupid kid who is bound to be adopted for following orders to the T. Yeah, he screamed. I looked at his direction to see him take out the blueprints and opening them. His gaze is in the mud. No, 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 I bolted before I knew it. Only that as I was running I felt a foot trip me. My footing lost and ended up with me crashing into the mud face first, earning laughter, but I couldn't let anything happen to the blueprints. They're the only thing I can call mine. They've been with me for 10.5 months. I stood up, the mud in the pink hand-me-down dress weighting me down, but I kept going. Not caring for the weight, only focused on getting to the blueprints. I reached him, my entire legs and face with mud sticking to it. "Huh. You can't get it," James said as he just raised his hand and out of my reach. I jumped and tried, but nothing. "Do it, James," I heard Molly yell out. James just raised his other hand. I heard a crumple. The blueprints were getting damaged. I did what came to mind and punched, aiming at the base of his stomach, relieving him of any air in his lungs. He buckled over. I took my chance to take the blueprint and run, but I got reminded that I'm just a small 4-year-old. I grabbed them and tried to run, but a punch got me in the cheek. I felt tears stung my eyes, followed by pain, and ended with me crashing to the floor in the mud. My hand rose to avoid the blueprint getting damaged. Ouch. She still protects it. I felt a kick in my stomach, probably Molly or one of her goons. So lame and freaky. She is a freaky alien. Another kid said. I opened my eyes as I pulled myself up, only to be pushed back to the mud by someone stepping on my back, making me fall again face first into the mud. And the blueprints were ripped from my hand. "No," I replied, but it was muffled by the mud in my face. I removed it, fighting against the tears, but it was useless. I'm useless. "Oh, the alien is crying. A crybaby freaky alien," she said as I used my strength to stand up, which isn't much. "My face is in pain. My back is going to bruise, like my stomach and ribs. Please don't break them," I pleaded with tears in my eyes. I could feel the rain beginning to fall, small drops. I looked up to see Molly holding the blueprints up as James threw a ball of mud. "Please," I begged, but got kicked to my chest and another to my ribs. It felt like an eternity. "I'm bored." She's not moving anymore, Molly said. I only had a chance to raise my head and see as she tore the blueprints right down the middle, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. The sound of that paper breaking will haunt me. The only thing that I can say is mine got destroyed by a kid. I felt my heart break, as well as my will. Then the same sound pulled me out of my thoughts as it was ripped again. It got thrown down into the mud right beside me. The only thing I could see was the word Ark and Stark. As the 5 kids were walking away, the rain got stronger, but before they left I received another mud pie to my face. I couldn't believe what just happened. I felt everything dim down, like all just took a tone of gray. Everything looked so dull and empty. I couldn't feel the rain, I felt the cold on my clothes, I could feel the pain in my face, arms, ribs, and stomach. I don't know how much time it was, but I do remember every detail on the mud, how my face felt, how everything hurt, but worst of all how everything dulled. I came to the conclusion that I don't care anymore. I died. Maybe I was destined to die once again. I just closed my eyes and let the darkness take me. Cindy. I heard the matriarch's voice behind me, but I didn't move, or couldn't move. My body felt only pain. I was only able to groan. The rain was deafening as it fell around me. Susan, get here. I heard the matriarch call for one of the ladies that work here in making the food. I felt arms around me. I groaned out in pain. Oh my God, Cindy. What happened? There was panic in her voice, but she sounded so distant. I got picked up by my armpits, and my head ended up in her shoulder. Blue ints. Ark. Were the only things I could say. The matriarch stopped. I could feel her head turn around. She knelt down and picked up paper and something plastic. Maybe she found them, but I just don't care anymore. Jessica, what is? Oh God. So that's her name. I got passed down from one's arms to others. I felt cold and numb. Everything that happened was a blur. Questions of what happened were answered with groans of pain and tears. I think I got showered in hot water. My clothes were replaced and I was set in bed. The next few days I don't remember clearly. I remember sleeping a lot, a fever, medicine, and soup, a lot of soup and water. After I didn't feel hot anymore and my nose wasn't runny, I could think clearly, but everything dulled out. I realized how the orphanage and the days had a dull gray color. My eyes dimmed and time lost meaning. I didn't think, didn't theorize. There was no use. The only word that my mind kept at hand and would be used in every occasion was useless. My favorite answer became, because I'm useless. I felt things being forgotten. The matriarch or Jessica became worried after a week. I think of seeing how I just sat in the living room and not do anything. I didn't have a book in hand or a lost in my thoughts look. I just felt useless, everything was dulled out. I think that Molly got scolded as well as the other kids after they got ratted out by other kids who saw what happened. But I didn't get the satisfaction. I couldn't feel anything, no joy, no anger, not even sadness. The word depression bounced around my head, but it was ignored. Cindy. Molly's voice sounded beside me as I was looking out the window, as I have done for the last, I think, 5 days. What? I asked in a monotone voice that seemed to make her flinch. I want to say that I'm sorry for what happened. Can you forgive me? I wanted to say no, but I just don't care. Yes. I don't care. I replied in a tone that made it clear I didn't care. Molly flinched, her eyes scared and filled with regret as I kept looking at the window, admiring the trek of the sun or the rain. It was until around 15 days later, I was so dulled out that time lost meaning to me. I felt like a waste of space. Nothing I could think of mattered. Cindy, hi. How a matriarch announced her presence as I was seated in the same bench looking at the sky as I did for the last weeks. Fine, thank you, and you? I replied in a monotone voice. I am good, thank you. I actually bought you this, she said in a cautious and low voice. I looked at her and in her hands was a book that looked way too fancy for something to be here. What is it? I asked her. She contained her flinch, but I could see her shoulder tense and face harden for a second. This is a book called Advanced Research on Electrons and its Uses for Mechanics. She said it slowly for me to get it or her to read it. That's nice. Here, read it. I know you like reading. She placed the big book in my lap, but I only felt the weight but no curiosity whatsoever to open it, so I just placed it beside me. I'll do it later, I replied. Cindy, you can talk to me. Oh, I also brought you this, she said in a cheerful tone that seemed forced, or not, I couldn't tell, nor did I care. She pulled the blue tube that stored my blueprints that got destroyed. It was clean. She opened the lid and took out a piece of paper that seemed like the blueprints, but the paper wasn't that pristine blue and flawless detail. It had crumples that were ironed, but they were still there. The tears seemed to not be pasted with transparent tape that would one day fall. I felt a tinge of sadness. I tried my best to repair it. I couldn't do much, but I was able to repair it. I finished as I looked at the design. The notes were illegible, Howard's notes were no longer readable. The only thing I could see was the picture of the reactor, which still had brown marks. Yes. Cindy, her voice softened. I'm sorry for not protecting you. I was so wrong. I thought that the kids were just bantering and you were strong. I didn't think they would hurt you that way. Everyone got a severe punishment for what they did. Eventually everyone confessed that it was Molly, and she got punished for it. I don't care, they were mean. They destroyed what I could call mine. They destroyed a gift that was only mine. I loved those blueprints and they destroyed them because it made me happy. I loved them, they were so beautiful, and because they thought I was happy, destroying them would make them happy. Who enjoys watching others suffer? I yelled out as I felt tears in my eyes. Everything seems like it doesn't matter. They chanted useless to me. They said that I'm a freak and I won't ever find happiness. For the first time in weeks I cried. I felt something. Those blueprints were the only thing that gave me happiness. Now nothing matters. Everything is so meaningless. Like me, I'm just a waste of space. I don't care if I die. I don't want to die, but I don't care. I yelled out in pain from all the sadness and numbness in my life. You're a good kid, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I'm a good kid. Then why am I not getting adopted? Because people are stupid. You're a good kid, you're cute, and one day you'll be someone people will try to be like you. I sniffed at her. Really? Yes, just don't ever change how you are. I cried for what felt like an hour. I remember falling asleep after that. I felt a little bit better, not much, but my curiosity hasn't even made me open the new book. I feel numb. Cindy. I heard the matriarch call out to me. I turned from the window, which is raining. I'm trying to process how everything changed. Yes. This time I had more emotion on my voice. Today is your birthday. I reacted surprised. Really? Yes. I assumed how you weren't happy today. I'm sorry, I am processing everything. Thanks for the wishes. Well, I want to cheer you up. Here, this can help. She pulled out a bunny in a blue suit with a pink ribbon and a light blue shirt. A bunny? His name is Mr. Bunny. She placed him on my lap. His white fur and pink smile made me mimic it. His eyes are black dots, but to me they're filled with happiness. He looks so happy. I admitted as I admired him. Every detail, everything of him made me feel something other than sadness. He is. I bet it's because he's your possession. I looked at her, ripping my gaze from the bunny that is around half a meter. You think he's happy because of me? I'm useless, and he's smiling because of someone useless. Why? I asked in confusion. I think he doesn't see you as useless. No, I'm sure he's happy because he can tell that you're not useless. It's up to you to prove him right. I looked back at his face, his small pink nose, his thin pink smile, all combined with an expression of happiness. I brought him close to me and hugged it. I felt the matriarch's hand in my back as I held Mr. Bunny close to me. I pulled out of the hug, my eyes stung with the tears, but I could swear I saw the bunny in a fancy suit smiling at me. Maybe everything is not so bad. Yeah, maybe I am not useless. I will prove you right, Mr. Bunny. I'm not useless. I will become someone, maybe not Iron Man, but someone. Molly got adopted a month after my birthday by a family of people who looked nice. She couldn't meet my gaze. I felt anger at her, anger that I will always store away and never forgive. I looked at the blueprints, they're readable-ish. But thankfully I was able to buy a notebook and remake the design from memory. I gave it a look and it was the same. I kept the blueprints because they still made me happy. I was also careful enough to have a better lock and began reading on martial arts and practicing a bit when we were on our free time. I was able to learn about kicks and punches. Maybe I could be like Taskmaster and learn different styles by looking at videos or people fighting. Well, that wouldn't be possible until 2008 when the internet had YouTube and a much useful Google. I sighed at now 8 years old. I had many interviews on potential families, but none of them were interested in me. I was saddened by the rejection when they took the previous kid. I made the belief that if I was a good kid I would get adopted. Since I behaved, the matriarch would tell me I'm a good kid. This led to less than desirable traits, or quirks of mine. I sort of chanted that I was a good kid, or a good girl. The years went by, I saw kids come and go. I faced failed interviews, one after the other, and ended up with me crying to sleep. But I pressed on. I read on the research that a certain Dr. Bruce Banner published on electromagnetic fields and the overcharge of electrons giving a higher amount of energy. as well as read the innovation that Tony Stark published. They were amazing. Detailing the functions of complicated things, I was able to keep up with them out of sheer dedication. I was not anywhere close to them since they mastered the entirety of different subjects. I was able to keep myself in the field of electronics and mechanics. They were fun. I was able to, after 5 years of gathering materials little by little, I created my arc reactor. It took me this amount of time because I had a lot of failed attempts and the gathering of materials was hard. Mainly palladium, but I made the calculations enough to get the full idea of replacing the palladium with a different material that wasn't radioactive. So I ended up with melting 2 spoons that I found out one was made of zinc silver, and the other was made out sterling silver, and added a copper wire of around a meter. I was lucky that no one found out because of the smell. I made the base for the perfect conductive metal for the arc reactor base. It wouldn't corrode because of the zinc silver, it would make a conductive material because of the copper, and it wouldn't degrade of use because of the sterling silver. I doubled the cycles like Tony recommended in Iron Man 2 and ended up with a really powerful flashlight that I now use for reading in the dark. I was able to make sure I wouldn't get electrocuted. So I had to wrap it in balloons and rubber for insulation and waterproofed it. The energy it produced was off the charts. Around it produced 1 billion kilowatts per hour if I were to modify using the overcharged electrons, the Ds. It could create around 3 billion kilowatts. That's like the 5% of what a hydroelectric plant creates to supply the entire city of New York, and that's only with this homemade reactor. I could power the entire orphanage for the next 500 years using the same plate that I got to call ZCS element. As in zinc, copper and silver. But the matriarch wouldn't let me because it would be dangerous and there is no test for it. I'm 11 years old and I already have the most powerful battery in my hands, but it's useless. Even if it were to blow up, it would cause a small pop sound and sizzle. The explosion wouldn't be big because I created the countermeasure for it to not blow up. It is really interesting in watching the light of it flicker, the hum of energy flowing. The potential of it, I have to sell it or even install it. But I don't have the resources for it. In other things, I got called by the principal to see if I'm interested in skipping grades. I said yes in a heartbeat. I'm sure the matriarch would be happy to say yes. I only hope that I can get out of this hell I call home and move into a dorm in a university where I can stay. I had learned that when I was 16 I would no longer fit here. I would get thrown out to the streets. This orphanage was hell. It was more often than not that I got a few slaps or punches from the matriarch. I was a good girl. I believed that for a big part of my life. I had my own arc reactor and it still worked the same as it did when I created it. I presented it as my science project for an admission to college. I won first place and a scholarship to Midtown Community College. Yep, a freaking battery that could power an entire campus for 100 years got me an admission to community college. I was disappointed in the stupidity presented by the committee of NYU, but I relented by accepting the offer by community college. I mean, I'm 13 and I am entering community college after graduating early. What surprised me is that I was sent to present my project to a museum for the greatest bioengineered creations on the planet, where bioengineers were sent and created their experiments. I smiled, remembering of how Spider-Man got his powers by the bite of a spider. I was to make a research paper on the museum and see why it was possible. Out of morbid fascination, went to the section on spiders. Reaching the exposition on spiders, I saw the case where the spider which is supposedly to bite Peter Parker is. Only for the case to be empty. Huh, I thought I would get to see it. Maybe it could have bitten me and I would be Spider-Man. I muttered to myself and giggled. But a feeling something crawling on my neck interrupted my giggle. I just fixed my sweater, which is made out of old wool that makes it itch. Only to feel something sharp into my neck just where my spine starts. Oh no, I moved back as I felt my body tensing as something began to travel through my body. Miss, are you okay? I heard a voice I recognized. I turned to see the man of myth. He has the white hair and brown glasses with the mustache. I don't feel so good, I replied, but he has his brown glasses and is dressed in a blue Intendancy jacket and pants. Don't worry, you'll be fine, I'll make sure of that, he said in a confident voice which brought me ease. You're him. He smirked as he touched my neck where I was bitten and picked the spider. In a flicker it disappeared. If you would have blinked you would have missed it. And you're you. Don't give up. Cindy Moon, a fitting name, don't you think? He said with a smile. I lost my footing as darkness fell around me. Cindy Moon. Where have I heard that before? And I felt sick as my body went through changes that I couldn't explain. I woke up in the orphanage, in my room. Since I'm 13 I get a room. It's a storage closet with enough space for my bed or sleeping bag as I like to call it, in my trunk with my stuff. I also learned that cramps are something that don't let you out of bed in some days. The pain is way too much sometimes and it sucks because I get too emotional. But what I'm feeling right now is different. Everything is amplified. I can see the cracks in the wooden floor. I heard the hum of the arc reactor that is in the trunk under lock. The steps of kids walking around were like an earthquake was rumbling in the ground. My head felt like it was about to explode. I got up from the floor groaning. Grabbing the glasses I used to get at least a clear sight. Opening my eyes I can't see anything through the glasses. It's like they don't work anymore, but removing them clears them. As if my vision is normal. I leaned into the small trunk, placing my hand on it, and got up only that my hand stuck into it. What the hell? Backing up against the wall, the trunk kept stuck in my hand like glue. Placing my hand on the wall I pulled. But my hand was not letting go of the wall. Fuck, I did get spider powers. Okay, I remember that I can get stuck to walls even using shoes and gloves. Enhanced speed, stamina, strength of being able to lift 150 times my weight, spider sense, and last web shooting. With reluctance I aimed my right hand at the corner, doing the hand sign Spider-Man always uses, but nothing happened. I thought it would have worked. Extending my entire hand I felt something move and it came out. 5 lines became one as if attracted to each other, and they converged on my middle finger, a web line that is as thick as a rope. Neat. I touched it. It was soft and kinda sticky. It felt like silk. I heard a knock on the door. Cindy. Emma told me she heard noise here. Can I come in? The matriarch's voice sounded behind the door. Shit. I moved the trunk to cover the web line. But my hand stuck to the wall, so I pulled softly only for the wall to come with me. Shit. I moved my hand to remove the pieces of wall. Yes, I'm awake. But don't come in. I'm not decent, I said as I pulled an excuse as I tried to let go of the trunk as well as the web line that is in there. I'm a woman, so it's okay. She opened the door. I quickly threw my shirt overhead and acted as if I was covering myself. I placed both hands on my back, hiding myself. Wait, I don't have a shirt. The matriarch closed the door. I'm sorry, please come out when you're decent. I was worried when they brought you here unconscious and with a fever, she said in a monotone tone of voice. I was finally able to let go of the trunk and stood there, thinking of not sticking as I made my way to the door. I sighed as I threw on the same shirt, and came out without my glasses. I also felt taller and leaner, stronger. Looking at the small mirror I lifted my shirt to see it toned like marble. Holy shit, I'm ripped. Looking at my arms, my biceps were toned. My face was now clear of imperfections, no pimples, even the one yesterday disappeared. I stepped out. The matriarch's gaze seemed relieved. I feel great, actually. I think so too. You look better without glasses, and it's good that you look healthy, she said with a smile. You have to rest a little more. I saved you a part of breakfast. So rest up and get down to eat later. She handed me a plate of something that looks vaguely like egg. I nodded and went into the room and decided to sleep a little more, but it turned fruitless. I have spider powers. Holy shit. That same year I got my powers at 13. Iron Man 1 happened, the conference where Tony Stark said he was Iron Man. Every kid in the orphanage talked about him. I struggled in keeping my strength and powers in check. I broke by accident the trunk that has my stuff in. I don't know why I got them, but I was slowly getting better at them and holding back on certain aspects of my life. Bad side, I was eating more than I should, but my body demanded that. Having 13 years was also officially one of the big girls in the orphanage, which made me take care of the kids when the matriarch was too busy. I just read and let the kids do things in silence. I was happy with how my life was, even though I got spider powers. It's not like I had to save people in New York. I don't have that ethics code. Why member out of petty revenge? I did found out I had my spider sense. But I had to hide it. I don't want S.H.I.E.L.D. or anyone close to me knowing that I had these powers. Not even the matriarch knew. She would rat me out and I would end up strapped into a metal table. I was happy. I didn't have to act. People don't need a Spider Woman. Horrible name, by the way, around, and even then that would be stupid. 6 months later I find myself fiddling with my latest invention. My web shooters. I don't know why I made them. I'm not even sure if I would be using them. I remember the formula Peter Parker used. It was written in a notebook in the movie Homecoming. I was able to recreate it by using the supplies in college lab. Also, I was able to begin my first semester in community college. I even begged for a full scholarship on NYU, but I got ignored twice. I literally presented an arc reactor before it became something. I was sent to the Stark Expo since I was to make a research paper on the showcases by either Tony Stark or any other industries present. But I could swear the universe was telling me something because the day I got my powers, the spider bite. It was too perfect, just like today. Even the day I got the blueprints. Today I was wearing a red scarf, a gray hoodie with black pants and red shoes. Sighing knowing that today would be the day the expo gets attacked. I had to come both days yesterday. I didn't come the first because I thought the universe was telling me something. So I did what's best and ignored the call of that day. But today I was forced to come today against my will. Justin Hammer walked to the stage dancing with outdated dance moves, and who is a mediocre engineer with money presented the war machine. Seconds later Iron Man landed in his armored glory. My hands twitched as I braced myself and began leaving. Everything went to hell. The robots began to shoot at Iron Man. But they turned to the civilians. I sighed. You will not make me do this. I saw how a kid was crying scared as a robot was aiming at her and her parent who hugged her tight. Fuck, I yelled as I jumped cracking the stairs I was on and kicked the robot in the head, breaking it off the body. I adjusted the scarf to cover the lower half of my face, leaving only my eyes to be seen and my nose covered. Go! Get out of here! I yelled out as I opened and closed my hand thrice for the web shooters to deploy, as well as a small arc reactor to glow from my palm. I shot another line as a robot landed and was aiming its machine gun at the civilians. No you don't! I exclaimed as the web line caught his Gatling gun and aimed it toward the sky and away from civilians. Another landed behind me. I shot another web line with my left wrist and pulled both arms downwards. I couldn't destroy them, but I did have the arc reactors. Placing my fingers in a claw, I aimed at their heads and shot 2 condensed arc shot, or repulsor blasts at their heads, making their heads disappear. Whoa! Are you a new superhero? A little girl asked me with a twinkle of admiration in her gaze. I pulled my smile to make her not be afraid, forcing it to reach my eyes. Yes, do you know where your parents are? She shook her head. I picked her up and analyzes the situation. I saw a guard shooting at the robots, but the bullets just pinged of it. It raised its hand that has a rocket launcher in it. My eyes widened as I shot a webline at it, and as it latches on I pulled, making it shoot a wall instead of the guard. Landing on the robot with the girl in my arms, and kicked its head in a spin kick, making its head loose, and shot a repulsor beam in the exposed neck cables. The guard looked shocked and surprised. Whoa lady, that was awesome! The girl exclaimed in my arms. I just let the girl down. Thank you, the man said with such honesty that made me feel like it was worth saving lives. Yes lady, thank you. You're my favorite superhero. The girl made my heart swoon. It's nothing, and I'm sure there are better heroes than me, I said as another robot landed. It looked like an anti-air ready to shoot at Iron Man, who is dealing with other 7 following him. I shot a repulsor blast at its head. The robot went down like a heap of metal. Iron Man turned his gaze to me as he flew by. I nodded at him, he nodded back. He landed near a kid with an Iron Man mask and shot at the robot, destroying it, and took off. That's Peter Parker. Another robot that I took care of. Lights went up and began to flicker to red. I knew what those lights meant. It's a bomb. Get away from the robots. I forced my lungs to make additional sound. I launched a webline at the young Peter Parker and pulled him away. You're safe now, I said as I sent him in the direction of the guard. Go to the guard, he will help you find your parents, I yelled as I kept people away from the robots. After all robots blew up and only a few people I couldn't save got hurt, I got myself out of that mess. Sticking to the shadows, I swung myself towards the orphanage, landing a few blocks back and walking like nothing happened. My clothes were okay and my scarf loose around my neck, as well as my web shooters went back to my bracelets. I walked into the orphanage like nothing happened. Cindy, it's so good to see you're okay. I was so worried for you, with all the mess with Iron Man and that terrorist. I was lucky that I actually got out before any of that happened. I'm so relieved. It's good that you were the only one there. Sheesh, thanks. I was on the news. Some interviews mentioned a woman saving lives from the robots. I was kinda happy that I helped people out there. Harlem shook. Good thing I was living in an orphanage near the outskirts of Queens and Brooklyn. It's a bad neighborhood. That was a year and a half ago. Now I'm 15, almost 16. Cindy, I have to talk to you about something really important. I tensed and followed her. Well, you can no longer just be Cindy, and I'm sad to say that you won't get adopted anytime soon. You're too old for that. Her words broke my heart. Knowing the warmth of a family is something I would never feel. Then why am I here? Cindy, you're about to be 16, which means you won't be able to stay here. You will be 16 in a week. She's throwing me out. I know, where am I going to live? The fear in my voice is clear. I should not show favoritism, but I have a friend that can help you by giving you a small room in an apartment complex, and as a favor he will give you the first month free stay. You'll have to find a job. You're smart, I'm sure you can do it. The reason why you're here in my office is because you need a name, a last name. So this is it, huh? I'm about to get kicked out, I said as a tear ran down my cheek. Tell me your last name, nothing ridiculous, she said with a stern tone. I remembered what the man told me, the one who looked like Stan Lee. Moon. I want my last name to be Cindy Moon. That's a beautiful last name. How long have you had thought of it? Since I was 13. Without a hug, or any sign of affection, I was thrown out the orphanage. Just a notification. In my hands I have only a few clothes, a pair of underwear. It felt surreal staying in the apartment, $5,000 a month, with the discount for the first 2 years lowering it down to $800. This was going to be hell. I called the phone in the card and got scheduled for an interview that same day. So you're the one that called the phone asking for a job? Well, let me tell you something. Obadiah Stane almost killed out CEO. So as of right now the only thing I can get you here is answering the phone. I'll take it, I don't care, I said with decision. It's minimum wage and clients are a pain in the ass, the secretary said in an honest tone. Don't care. I'll do anything, I said, accepting my fate. Good thing about living in New York City is that everything can get you anywhere. I began making my way to the warehouse district in Queens, which is a 20-minute ride by train. As I reached a place that looked really abandoned, I just took a running and decided to test my leg strength since I never got to train in the orphanage. Only martial arts of the videos in the library attempting to emulate Taskmaster. I jumped over the fence easily, and by easily I mean I jumped over the fence and into the wall. Lucky for me I got stuck to the wall by my entire body. I removed my torso and legs, leaving me only in my hands and toes. Deciding to not make a show, I went inside the warehouse where there are catwalks, metal beams laying on the ground and chains hanging. Okay, let's go by steps. First things first, how long can I stick to something and where can I stick? I walked, focusing on sticking to the metal beam that held the warehouse. I placed a foot and jumped. My foot stuck even though I had my shoe on. I pulled away, focusing on not sticking, and just like that I could not stick. This is fun. I smiled, finally feeling the freedom of using my powers with no fear of anyone seeing me, or discovering my abilities. Next I used my hands. I did the same, obtaining that I could stick to any surface with any extremity. Later I was hanging on the beam at the top of the warehouse. Using the muscles I didn't know I had, as well as the flexibility I also didn't know I had. I am now just standing on the beam upside down. This is cool. Okay, so now what? Just like that I was falling, flailing uselessly. I looked to see a chain in front of me. Without a care I grabbed it and it flung me forward. I feel like Tarzan. I began going from one chain to the other. As I took enough security I reached the end of the swing and I flew, letting go of the chain, flipping through the air, doing a backflip and grabbing another one. I stopped and stayed there. Looking around I noticed that there was a part that doesn't have chains. I pointed my fingers that way and found the feeling of webs. Just as fast a line of web launched from my fingers to the ceiling. Just breathe in, I let go of the chain and swing myself on the web. It felt natural on a certain way. I just decided to do it again on another beam and again and again. It became awesome. After a few more hours of swinging around I became hungry. I saw that I'm soaked to the bone in sweat. Even though I'm kinda not bothered by it. I just decided that I will turn this place into a gym for my abilities. After all, I need to learn my limits. I saw Spider-Man stop a car at 80 miles per hour. Catch a car like it was nothing, and worse of all, stop a moving train, among other things. After a few days later of testing my strength by lifting literal beams of steel like they're nothing. My limit is equivalent to 11 beams of steel of 10 by 12, which is around a ton each. 11 tons, that's a lot of strength on my arms. I began walking down the street thinking about dinner. After all, I still had money from the account that the matriarch gave me. It had $250. I stopped by a deli and asked for a sub of meat. As I walked by I now know my way from my apartment to the warehouse and back. I was walking by and saw an alleyway. It was dark and damp hot. What caught my attention was how two men surrounded a woman and were slowly pushing her towards the alley. "Come on babe, you'll enjoy it. Yeah, it's going to be fun." "Please no, I have money, I can give it to you. We don't want money." I felt anger rise in me. I had to intervene. If you have power, fight those who spread fear. But I need a costume, like a hood or a face mask or something. I grabbed the red scarf that I never took off. This will do. Ducking into the alley across the street, I jumped, getting an altitude of around a third floor, and threw a webline at the other building, deploying my web shooters and arc reactor and swinging and landing on the side, sticking to it, landing on the building. I crawled to the alley where they dragged the girl. "Please, I'll give you more money, just please don't." The woman is crying and kicking, begging. The anger inside me rose. This is going to put a target on my head, by Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., but I can't let someone do something so disgusting to a woman who clearly doesn't want to suffer. The two men were holding the woman against the wall. I sighed and went for it, landing on the ladder for emergency exits on the side of the building. "Hey, you should treat women with respect, or did your mother didn't taught you that?" That pulled their attention towards me. "Oh, and you are?" The man pulled a knife as I was leaning over the railing. I used my upper strength and pulled myself over, calculating and landing on his face and pushing him into the ground and backflipping, delivering a spin kick to the other rapist. Both fell unconscious from the impact. I webbed them up just in case, and just like that I saved the first person I could. I looked at the woman or girl. She has red hair, pale complexion, and is kinda tall, but she's not someone who stands out, and she looks like the typical blonde hair, blue eyes, sharp nose and rosy lips. Also, she's not as pretty as an actress. Meaning she's nobody, but this is real after all. I feel pain among other things. I need to start securing my identity and letting no one get close to me that look like actors, because Tony Stark is literally Robert Downey Jr. "You're, safe?" I smacked myself on the face. Did I really just ask that? "Yeah, you did." She smiled, but she was shaking. I went towards her and offered a hand. She slowly took it. "Thank you for saving me." Her eyes are so genuine, I feel myself like a hero. I saved a life from being tormented. She looks so unsure of herself. "Call the police, they'll want a testimony." "Well, all right," she stuttered. "Do you want me to stay with you?" She nodded. "Do you have a name?" she asked timidly after ending the call. "Oh yeah, everyone does," I quipped. "Of course, but you know, like Iron Man or War Machine." "Oh, no, I don't have one." "Damn, that's right, I don't have a name." "I think you need one if you are to keep saving people." "Keep saving people." Vigilantism. Something I'm getting more and more comfortable with. "And what is that thing that those guys are wrapped up in? Does that come out of?" I felt myself get embarrassed. "No, it actually comes from this." I launched a line at the wall and it stuck, signaling to my web shooter. "That's so cool, it's sticky and smooth like silk." Just like that it clicked. I remembered what the man said about me being Cindy Moon. Like Silk, the second one who was bitten by the spider. "Silk," I said, startling the girl. "Yeah, that's a good name, right?" "Totally. I just gave a superhero a name," she said in a small smile. "You did?" I could hear the police coming. "The cops are coming, and after Hulk and Iron Man thing you should go," she said as I stood up from the place we were sitting on the sidewalk. "Thanks for the name," I said cheerfully as I jumped and threw a webline to the building nearest to me and swung just like I've been doing the last few days with the chains in my webs. The city is way better than that warehouse. It's about to be sunset. I decided to see what I come square as I made swung around the entire skyscrapers and landing on one of the gargoyles. Holy crap, I'm high. I laughed at my own joke. I stood atop the gargoyle and looked at the skyline of NYC. It's beautiful. Maybe I can make it here my spot. It's not like anyone else could take it from me. This was nice. I stood up on the head of the gargoyle and jumped. As I neared the ground, I heard a woman scream. I launched a webline and swung around. I could see the top of high buildings. I backflipped and continued swinging. I made sure to stop on a different alley and removed the face mask, knowing that it will dissolve in a few minutes. Maybe this wasn't so bad after all. I still have to go to college, but it's okay. Maybe I can juggle all things Peter Parker was always worried about. I walked off, arriving to my apartment and falling asleep on the bed to a dream of a superhero with an S on her chest while she swung around. I got training on the basis of tech support in TVs and smartphones that Stark Industries distributed. I grew to hate my supervisor. He's so cocky and a prick. But it brings food to the table and pays rent barely. After saving that girl, I began doing what I thought I would never do, and that is do vigilante work. I got around patrolling a few neighborhoods. It was fun. I made sure to save people from muggings, beating them up, or more importantly knocking them out. No Punisher levels of cruelness. I made sure that I was friendly and made my suit a suit that was like the one I saw in the comics. It's literal spandex. I remember of a Cindy Moon, a girl who was bitten by the same spider that bit Spider-Man. I also remember a bit of her costume, which is what I currently have, which has a web beginning from the center of my chest, making a black spider web design. Before reaching the legs around my pelvis, it stops into full black only for streaks of white to make the shape of a spider-like legs. My face is covered by a red mask that covers just below my eyes, covering my nose, and last but not least, black gloves with my fingers in color red like my mask. Also, they let my hands breathe. They're like a second skin which are attached to my web shooters, which are less clunky and more like a bracelet. In my opinion, it looks awesome. Only problem is that I has a zipper and it's kinda hard to put under clothes. So I decided to use the extra money from my work to get baggy clothes. At first people didn't understood why I wore them in spring of 2012. But they got used to it. I pulled my nerdy look pretty well. Glasses that didn't require prescription. Messy hair that is a wig, since I decided to keep my hair in a bub cut while the wig is long. It's to make a distance between Cindy Moon and Silk. I do like the name. I was lazing around taking my short break from my other job as a vigilante. I had my day free. After all, I had the schedule of a 30-hour student and pulled crazy overtimes in free time. So I enjoyed helping people. As soon as sirens began blaring, I could see a car speeding down the road just where I'm lying around, putting my phone in my pocket and zipping up the pocket. Because I had to make pockets for this suit, I swung myself towards the car that was clearly a getaway car that is followed by police cars. A man lowered the window and pulled a heavy assault rifle. Oh come on. Why do bad guys get guns like those? The guy has the nerve to point at me. And began shooting. My spider sense or silk sense began blaring. I threw my web line using my web shooters at the building nearest to me and kept running. I kept running with the building. Getting to the other side, I launched another web line across the street, dodging bullets. After I had a clear shot, I calculated roughly around the turn and speed I would have. I jumped as the car turned, shooting a web line at a light pole. I swung myself, holding on for dear life, and landed on the roof of the car with a thump. My silk sense went off and I dodged left, avoiding the bullets that went through the roof. That was close. I yelled as I flipped into the windshield. Stop the car or you will regret shooting me. Instead of doing as I said, two of them pointed their guns at me. I looked to see them about to run straight into a crossing street that had a lot of people. Oh, come on, I yelled as I returned to the hood, avoiding the shots. And to have an advantage point, there's a way out of this. Come on, come on, come on. There. Jumping from the car, I shot two web lines in front of the car and using my organic ones at the two building from each side of the street. I jumped off the car, avoiding the gunshots, landing in the street and bringing both hands down over my shoulders. I made sure they were tight as the car crashed into the web. The web lines pulled in the upwards direction, making the 6 lines go forward. Luckily nothing broke. I looked behind me and saw that the car stopped in its tracks and is hanging on the middle of the street, hanging by the webs stuck in the buildings. The 3 criminals stepped out of the car and all 3 fell onto the ground. One scrambled for his rifle. Yoink. That was mine. Was, as in past tense. To shut him up, I shot a web at his mouth. The other 2 just surrendered, placing their hands in the air, as the other struggled with the web over his mouth. He could breathe, that much I know. Silk. Stand down and we won't shoot. A police officer pointed her gun at me. I walked towards her and stood in front of her. You're cute, but why me? Because I stopped the bad guys and there was no property damage. Why? Oh, you're contaminating with your webs. Yes, that's law, she said with no clear way to make me guilty. Sure. Oh, hi, Officer Jonathan. How are the kids? As soon as she turned around, I bolted, shooting a line and swinging out of sight. Knowing people would be around and making sure no one followed, I dropped down and moved a few bags and reaching for the one with text written in it. For goodwill. Suckers, I said as I pulled out my wig, loose pants and hoodie. Quickly putting all the clothes on and wig, I made my way home. After all, police are on high alert because I'm doing things like this. Arriving home only to see the landlord placing a sign on the door, evicted, and stuff getting thrown out my door. What the hell? Why? I'm up to date on rents, I exclaimed as I picked up my clothes, which aren't a lot. Yeah, but sorry, it's just that prices went up and you have to pay or you're out. 2 years are up, you either pay me the regular or you're out. I can't do that, I'm barely doing good enough. What do you want? I'm a student under a full scholarship. Do you want my student loans? I have 3,000. How does that sound? And you leave me alone for this month? I argued. He stopped, in front of me. He's a gross man, someone that screams a bad person or someone who I'm sure has done crime before. You could also do me a favor. He eyed me up and down with his eyes. I flinched and got filled with rage. We gross, I'm under 18, you sick bastard. I walked into the apartment, brushing past him with my things in hand. Goddamn pig. I slammed the door shut and threw off my shoes. I walked into the kitchen and began preparing dinner. The air feels off and I also can hear the soft breathing of someone. You know it's rude to enter someone else's apartment without asking, I said aloud as I threw in the cream to the chicken that obtained a white color. I can hear your breathing all the way from here, so step out into the light or just get here and wait for dinner to be done and talk like civilized people. As the cream took a yellow color, I threw in the rest of the ingredients, making my totally inaccurate chicken scampi. Cindy Moon, or should I say, Silk, huh, you're late. I thought you would have been faster. I was waiting for someone since December. After all, people are selling masks that look like mine. It's true, after I began working as a vigilante for almost a year, I've been expecting S.H.I.E.L.D. to come after me. They were watching me, yes, but they didn't know my identity that Woolery finds out. What? Finished with the cooking, I took out 2 plates and 2 cups. Here's yours and mine. There's Mountain Dew, which is totally unhealthy, and there's Coke, which is unhealthy as well. Your choice is on flavor. I served myself with Mountain Dew and Wig N. He did the same. So what's up? I said nonchalantly while inside I was freaking out. He's Samuel L. Goddamn Jackson, he looks badass. You, a college student on her 4th semester and a vigilante, 17 years old, and an orphan. Anything else I missed? You missed the part where I hate white chocolate. I could totally make a racist joke, but I'll save it. He chuckled. Fucking chuckled. I made Samuel L. Jackson chuckle. You have this power, strength, speed, and you love in this fancy apartment. Why not crime? You could just walk into a vault, rip it off its hinges and take all the money. I will humor him. Alright, I confess, I stole that bag of chips but felt so bad for the guy that of the shop that I turned back and paid twice the value. That's not seriously, he said in disbelief. Yeah. Okay, back on track. I believe that people always look for 2 things, power and money. But they look for power in many different ways. They either rule by fear, or they rule by making oppression. But there's people who fight against those who want to rule by fear. I for one believe that if someone gets power, they should use it to fight against those who spread fear. A hero. So you're a hero? Do you trust me? You? Yes, you look like. Let me make an analogy. I'm a kid in the playground, and let's add I don't know. Iron Man. We're kids in a playground, and a big mean kid just comes in one day and pushes everyone away. He's big and mean, but you have the power to go to the big mean teacher and tell, or you can round up the kids and gang up on the kid. He's big, but we're many. I also know that you have a way to round up people behind you. You look like someone who can make the right call and trust in people who you deem competent. I totally just bullshitted my way through that. Huh, guess I do. Pretty in-depth analysis for someone who dresses in tights. But you admit it looks cool, right? He didn't answer and just kept eating. Why are you here? You certainly didn't come here for the food. I'm interested in you. Here, he placed a folder on the table with the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on it. I took it and opened it. Avengers Initiative. Huh, codename Silk. Identity secret. Observations show she's a woman with increased strength, speed and flexibility. He motioned for me to go on as he began taking a hue of coke. She shows admirable skill, smarts and wits to fight against armed opponents, can analyze situations and maintain a clear head. She shows restraint and is careful and paranoid, showing that she can keep people guessing. She also keeps in mind destruction of property but also is immature. That last one is true, he smirked. She can work with a team and cooperate when needed. Avengers Initiative, Silk approved. I don't know what this means. It means I see potential in you. I have one condition. Keep my address, my name and anything related to my personal information to you and only you. I'm not sure you know how this works. It's the only way. I enjoy my secret identity, thank you very much. Alright, but no buts, only you and the people you have full trust. Someone you would let then watch your kids while you go to the movies. I don't have kids. Then the people for which you keep secrets for. Alright, you got yourself a deal, but we can't have you going out there not knowing what you're doing. But I know a bit of Kung Fu, and I know how to speak Korean. Oh really? Neo dalg jo ahae? I said in Korean. After all, it was the language I decided to study in college. I had a scholarship, I will take advantage of it, and now I can speak fluently Korean. I wasn't being literal. I know, I'm just pulling your leg. He sighed loudly. I did asked if you liked the chicken. Thanks for the food. You're a good cool for homemade food. And yes, I like the chicken. Thanks. If you want you can drop anytime. Just don't bleed on the carpet if you're shot. He laughed as he left a smartphone on the table. Also, please don't bug my house, I enjoy my private time for me, because I do enjoy masturb. I won't finish that sentence now that I processed what I was about to say. He rose an eyebrow as I measured my words. This phone will let me contact you and you can contact me. Also, this money should keep you afloat. Your job sucks. And you're not bugged, don't worry. He said as he left a stack of money beside the cell phone. Please don't call for things that are not an emergency. I would also like daily reports, he said as he walked out. Yeah, sure, goodbye, I said as I moved to the counter and counted the amount. 3,000, I could totally pay rent from this for 3 months. I said as I made my way through the small apartment, making sure, trying to notice if something was making a sound. At first I thought it was weird. I mean, everything is weird. I stand right now in class doing exposition on a book report for English class. And so this is my exposition on how the English language came to be. Any questions? I looked around to see that nobody was paying attention. I think a guy in the back is snoring. I look at the teacher with hopeful eyes. Good presentation. Next. I removed the presentation from the projector and went to my seat. Pulling my smartphone out, I began reading the most recent news. Silk stops getaway car after robbing a store. I read the news article. It's detailed and clearly supports me. I should totally make a social media account, but it would be dumb and unnecessary. A video was below the article. Clicking on it, I could see that was from when I stopped the van getting away. The video ends with me pulling the gun out and shooting without looking at the other guy's mouth. My suit looks pretty cool, if I say so myself. I came into the apartment after around 3 hours of patrolling and only stopping a burglar from stealing from a guy at gunpoint. I opened the door and fell to the bed, still in costume. But before I could drift off to sleep, a beeping sound stopped me from falling asleep completely. Hello? I said over the phone. Is this Silk? I shot up my sleep completely out of my mind, but looking at the phone I answered. Oh right, the report. So I went to work, ignored my supervisor, he's a jerk, and patrolled around 3 hours, had 2 meat subs from down the street. Because those things managed to fill my stomach. I also went to the stopped a burglar after robbing a guy at gunpoint. I stopped him, webbed him up, and waited for the police to come. Is that all? The voice sounded not surprised and professional. It was a male voice. Yup. Who am I speaking to? To whom are you speaking? My name is Agent Phil Coulson. I internally squealed. He's a good character and I'm talking to him over the phone, but I also enjoy a lot messing with people. Nice to meet ya, Agent. Phil. It's Phil. That's what I said, Phil. No, that's not how you're supposed to say it. He sounds exasperated. Very well, Agent Phil. No, that's incorrect. Again, he sounds bothered. Fine, that's my report, Felipe. I heard him sighed in exasperation. I just laughed as I hung up and went to sleep. Arriving at the apartment after my patrol of 3 hours and stopping a hostage situation, an ATM robbery, and getting out. I felt tired. I just want to fall on my bed and sleep. But I saw all my stuff get thrown out the apartment. Wait, what the hell? The old fat man just pointed at the sign on the door. Evicted. What do you mean by evicted? It means you're out of here, kid. The oversized man said as he threw my clothes outside. I have nowhere else to go. I stayed on time and did everything I had to. It's not fair, I relented. Sorry, but life's not fair. With that, he began pushing me out of the complex. I walked on my own outside. I picked up my stuff from the apartment. I walked around not finding a destination until I found myself in the abandoned warehouse where I trained. I had my things under in the walkways that are broken at the top of the warehouse. No other place to go. A few days of leaving here became bearable. I showered myself in campus with cold water. Laundry was a pain because I was paying for that. Work, superheroing and getting food became a hassle. I have not gotten calls from Fury demanding my attention or stealing food. Good thing the deli I frequent has subs that do fill me with only 3 of them and it costs $5 each. I get $480 for 2 weeks of 30-hour work answering the phone for nearly a year. I was lucky to leave in that apartment for $800 a month and I am seriously underweight. I'm getting skinnier because I was not eating enough. I would go hungry more often than not. It's been almost a year since I began working in Stark Industries. I hate my supervisor Jerome. He's an idiot who clearly has a crush on me, which is weird. Even though I remember those memories as a guy, the first still don't feel like a girl. It's weird. I haven't gone for a raise since I don't have time to work and I work 30 hours, not enough by company standards to get a higher position. A month later I got a call from the phone fearing what was going to happen next. Hey. My witty attitude dimmed after all the time I've been without a home. Where are you? And why is your apartment so bare? Fury's voice sounded bothered. Because I got kicked out to the streets once again. I've lived like this for the past month. I admitted, knowing clearly that I needed to tell him the truth. Why didn't you say anything? You do know I have money or even a small room for you. His voice sounds annoyed and angry. Because I don't want to be something to be cared like a baby. Cindy, you're sleeping in the streets. It's technically a warehouse. Abandoned and creepy since rats tend to crawl around, but I keep myself safe. I have powers and rats ignore me since I place cookies around me for them to eat and me to sleep. If you want to give me something, then I'll stay there. It doesn't matter, secure what you have and get to the gym. The Avengers Initiative is active. Where are you? Okay, Dad. I'm in a warehouse downtown, abandoned and has a fence really high, but it's open. I'll wait outside. After around 10 minutes 3 black SUVs stopped in front of the warehouse. I'm standing in the front. I'll go alone, come with me. We entered the office. Here's what I'm about to tell you. He placed a manila folder with the SHIELD logo on it and opened it, revealing the Tesseract. This is the Tesseract, a cube that has a lot of power. We were using it for creating renewable energy, but it was stolen. By whom? A guy named Loki. He's the brother of Thor. Thor as in God of Thunder? Yes. He had a hand in the destruction of a small town on New Mexico. That's Thor 1, I think. Alright, I believe you. What am I supposed to do with this information? I asked, dumbfounded in my state of sleep. You are to read up on these files. Here's a tablet with all the information on the other candidates for the Avengers Initiative. He placed a tablet which appeared out of his trench coat. He placed it in front of me with the file on the Tesseract open. I trust you know about electrical engineering? He asked. I nodded, slowly driving the sleep away. Then you're to present yourself in this gym. He stood up and approached the door. And bring your costume and equipment. I would take you with us, but it's too risky with your secret identity, as well as you won't get to rest. I nodded. You got it. So do I bring breakfast or will there be food? He walked out of the office. I look at the files detailing the Tesseract, which is obviously being used for weapons. I mean, who placed the number 10,000 watts on a number as a lowest output? This thing is one of the 6 bases of the universe, the literal representation of space. It also means that Loki just stole the Tesseract in starting the plot for the Avengers, and apparently I'm in the middle of it. I swung around the city, not really caring for homework. After all, I would miss school for around 2 days. I landed on the address of the card. I could see a black SUV in the front of the gym entrance. I decided to wear my costume, but decided to wear my civvies but without the wig and the red face mask. I'm wearing jeans and a gray shirt with black stripes, as well as the shoes I use for my costume, which I'm wearing under my costume. Hello? I asked aloud. This place is a gym and looks so vintage. I couldn't hear anything. I also heard a shower running, meaning that someone is here and I'm early. At least I bought 4 meat subs out of my student loans that I'm managing really poorly. I'm in debt to them and I don't have a way to pay them back aside from the $100 that I give them from every 2 weeks of work. I saw that I had space in the steel beams above the rain. I jump and take a seat while pulling out a sub from bag. As I was halfway of eating the second sub and browsing on my phone. Hey, who are you? I almost jump out of my skin. My sub went into the air as well as my phone. I swing my arms wildly and lean after my sub, almost falling, but I stuck myself on the side of the beam, and just in time before the phone crashed into the ground I threw a web line and pulled. Only for the phone to crash into my face, slapping me and getting stuck. Ouch, I rubbed my cheek from the pain as the slap resounded and removed my phone. I look at the guy standing there. He's wearing a button-up shirt that looks really vintage, like what a grandpa uses, a brown leather jacket and black dress pants with dress shoes. He looks like a mountain of muscle, but in the way it doesn't make them look gross. He's a literal beefcake. You alright? I read about you. You're Silk. He's looking straight at me as I'm standing on the side of the metal beams as I took another bite and swallow. That's me. Sup? I said, playing dumb on who he is. Oh, sorry, my name is Steve Rogers, he said, extending a hand. Oh, as in Captain America, it was on the file. Wait, I said sup. Or is it hello, good morning? Which way should I speak? You're like 90-something. Oh. Do you get senior discounts? He chuckled as I just stood there and took the last bite of the second sub. Either way is fine, so don't worry. Also, I don't go out much. But I'm getting used to the world we live in. And where did you get that? Oh, a deli around where I live. You want one? They're made of meat and lettuce. It's healthy, I think. Sure, I didn't have breakfast. I handed him the third, leaving that one for the road. I jumped back, flipping into the ground, landing gracefully. Thanks, I saw your videos of saving people. You do a good job. Why thank you? I mean, I'd totally have to congratulate you because you fought on World War II. Oh, and is it true you punched Hitler in the jaw? I'm trying to keep the upbeat persona. You're funny, and yes, I punched him quite a few times on those shows. He did, there are videos. Another voice came out of the entrance. Hello, Phileas Agent Coulson, I said in a smug tone. For the last time, it's Philip Coulson, there's no agent in the middle, he sighed. As you wish, Philippe, I said with a smile and did a mocking bow. That's not even close, he seemed to freeze as he noticed the Vans. Captain America, I'm a big fan. My name is Philippe Coulson, Philip Coulson, or Phil for my friends. You can call me Phil. I burst out laughing at his mistake, which earned me a glare. Let's go, Director Fury is waiting. Yes, Agent Philippe, I said as I saluted. Damn teenagers. He muttered. I laughed louder. After a trip in a van in which I fell asleep, catching up on much needed sleep. Silk, wake up, we're here. Phil's voice sounded next to me. I opened my eyes to see I was not in a car and in a ship which had the doors opened. Wait, what happened? I removed the seatbelt. I fell asleep on the SUV. How am I strapped into the seatbelt of a jet plane thing? Oh, since you wouldn't wake up, I carried you onto the plane and placed your seatbelt on you. Steve said as he and Phil walk out of the plane. As I walk out of the plane, the overwhelming smell of saltwater fills my nostrils as well as the loud noises from planes landing. Agent Romanoff, Captain Rogers and Silk. Phil says aloud as I turn my head to see Scarlett Johansson in a tight red shirt that lets me see her cleavage, a black leather jacket and skinny black jeans with a haircut that reaches just below her ears. Hi, Vigilante. She nodded to each one of us. Ma'am. Secret agent, no, that's not right. Assassin. Spy, yeah, I'll settle for that. I say as she kept her gaze at me. It's intimidating to say the least. They need you on the bridge, they're starting the trace, she said with a straight face at Coulson. See ya there. Phil walked off, heading to the nearest entrance. Each of us looked at each other. I secured my pack that still has a sub and a bottle of water. Romanoff began walking and we followed. It's quite the buzz, the finding you in the ice, and a vigilante that fights like a trained martial artist. I thought Coulson was gonna swoon. I giggled after remembering how he introduced himself. Oh, you should have seen when he introduced himself. He said his name was Philippe. I could see a small tinge in her lips. Did he ask you to sign his Captain America trading cards yet? Trading cards? Steve just looks lost. They're vintage, he's very proud. We walk around the jets to see a man who looks like a scientist and is completely out of his element. He's Dr. Banner, Steve said in a loud voice as he extended a hand. Oh yeah, hi. Banner just walked up to him and shook his hand. Hey, I read about your study on electrical energy and the overcharge of electrons and its uses. I said as I extended my hand, but he just kept shaking Steve's hand in an awkward way. He looked at me and immediately at the ground. They told me you would come here, he said, surprised. They told us you could find the cube. Is that the only word on me? Banner said in a cautious tone. Nah, you're paranoid, but I have a question that, gentleman and vigilante, you might want to step inside in a minute. It's about to start getting hard to breathe. As she said that, the sound of heavy machinery began to sound around us and pilots and engineers began running around. Is this a submarine? Really, they want me in a pressurized metal container? We walked to the edge as the height began to change and we were getting higher. I moved with them to the edge to see a turbine starting to rev up as it came closer to the water surface. Oh, no, this is much worse. What's the fun in? Whoa, I just walked to the edge pretending to lose my footing. Steve moved fast, but I just stuck myself to the side of the platform. I laughed, earning a stern gaze from Steve, clearly not amused from being scared, and Banner looks more on edge. With me back on the side of them, I got a shove into the building inside the helicarrier as we got airborne. Not cool, assassin spy. This is not time for games, she said in a harsh tone. As we reached the bridge, I could see her. Maria Hill or Colby Smulders. She looks young and hot, beautiful and hot. I could see that she's giving out orders. We're at level, sir. Good, let's vanish, Fury ordered. Activate reflection panels. With a nod, Fury turned to us. Gentleman in silk. I nodded as Steve walked up to him and gave him a 10. Didn't took my eyes from Maria Hill. Steve began walking around the command center. As soon as Maria Hill's eyes left Steve, I was near her. Hey, I said behind her. She turned her head to right, but I moved left to avoid her gaze. She moved left and I repeated process in the opposite direction. Until she turned around. I know who you are. Good, so that means that Fury trusts you with his life and kids and wife. Well, he doesn't have one of those, does he? I pointed at Fury, speaking to Banner. What is it that you do here anyway? I tried to pull out a move for flirting, as in establishing a connection. For example, she will talk about work and I will stand on her left side since we're the same height. Then she looks at me with her eyes to the right side, which is where good memories are stored, meaning she will associate me with a good memory. I'm second in command and Fury's right hand. I make sure this whole operation runs at full capacity, she said as she eyes me up and down. She's clearly checking me out. Even with that guy playing a video game, I said as I pointed at the Galaga guy, who is playing without a care. God damn it, Jackson. He jumped on his seat as he alt-tabbed out of his game. She sighed as she took a table beside her desk and began to walk around the bridge. I saw Banner follow Romanoff out of the bridge and to a lab, or so I assume. I approached Fury. Sup, Fury, and Silk, good to see you're here. I'm happy to be invited to fight the big kid rather than go to the big teacher to tell. You're still on that, but yes, I trust the judgment of each of you, but the decisions of the council are sometimes too extreme for my tastes. Well, at least you created this backup plan, so we wait, right? Yes, you can do that, right? He said with doubt on his voice. Are you doubting me? Me? Yes, he deadpanned. You're doing the right thing, I said as I watched Hill begin to walk towards deeper into the ship. Oh, and tomorrow's your birthday, right? I tensed up remembering all those empty birthdays, and it was only Mr. Bunny and me. We're running face recognition software on finding Loki. You can rest, go to Dr. Banner, or do whatever you want. Just don't rile up Agent Coulson. Phooey, he's fun to bother, I said in a pout. Is there a place to eat? He narrowed his eye. Fine, hey Hill. Mind if I accompany you? I said as I began to walk beside Hill. Not at all, it's better to have company. She shrugged. I whooped in my head. What's in the bag? She asked as she began running over analytics, but she turned her head to me and the small bag. Oh, it's a meat sub from 6th Street. They're amazing, also a bottle of water. Maybe I should have one. She looked at her clock. Come, it's my lunch hour, she said as we walked around and stopped in a cafeteria and everyone is eating MREs. Oh god, this place is not a cafeteria, it's a nightmare. Only MREs? I asked with horror on my face. Yes, it sucks. We have the ritual of burning all the beans in a fire and everyone fights over the mac and cheese. But I always win. I laughed. She has a sense of humor. Her face turned sour as she picked up a package of MREs. You don't want to eat that, do you? No, not at all, she said in dismay. Here, we can share. I already ate too. I took the sub and placed it in the table. Here, take half, I offered. Hill, I'll trade you my mac and cheese for the next 3 days if you give me that sub, a random SHIELD agent said as he stopped beside the table. Hell no, back off, she said with a smile. Thanks, she said as I broke the sandwich in half. I let her choose the piece she wants. She took the big half and took the first bite. This tastes awesome. I could see the disappointed looks of people around us. Right, Only be careful because they're tricky. I usually ate 4 for a full meal, but it takes time for them to settle in. Your 4. This is a lot of bread and different types of meat? I know I love it. But my powers give me an increased metabolism, which makes me spend more money on food. Hell, from the look on everyone's faces I can see why Fury raided my fridge when he comes to New York. He raided your fridge? Yeah, I invited him once to have dinner when he met me, and over the course of 4 months he's been entering taking a topper, and the topper appears a few days later clean on the table. But last month he stopped. So that's where he gets his meals when we're stationed near NYC. Okay. I want one for me. If Fury likes it then I should too. Sure, you can give me your phone and we can sort it out, I said in a nonchalant way, making sure to stay as clear as possible and not give any ideas, but I think she's noticing. Sure, here. She wrote her phone on a napkin. I took a look at it and it's in my head. Aren't you going to keep it? Yeah, but I already memorized it. Thank you, photographic memory. So you have an eidetic memory. Since I've been 3, that's one of the reasons I skipped out a few grades. How old are you? 22. I know you're 17, and tomorrow 18. You spies have your work cut out for you. So stalkerish. She laughed. It's a pretty laugh if I say so myself. Sir, we have a 78% match. What now? Steve said with a serious tone. You're up. I nodded and went to the hangar by following Maria. As we boarded, Romanov took the pilot's seat. I took the back and began undressing. As I pulled my shirt, Steve turned around immediately and his face went red. You know I'm wearing my suit under my clothes, right? I said in a deadpan tone. Yeah, I knew that. I sighed as I took a seat in the back. Spy assassin. How much longer until we reach there? About an hour and a half. Wake me up when we're there, but like 5 minutes before, I said as I made myself comfortable. Sure. I heard the answer and fell asleep. Thanks, I muttered. Silk, wake up. Nearing the coordinates 10 minutes. Romanov's voice sounded in my ears. I opened my eyes and looked around, and Steve is now in his Captain America suit with his shield in hand. I nodded as I pulled from my bag my web shooters that look like they're made out of cheap metal, which they are. But the cartridges are shiny aluminum. Literally ones from a pellet gun that are made for airsoft guns. I adjusted my suit, mask, hair and web shooters. Target in sight. And he's about to shoot a senior citizen. But so does everyone who points a gun at Cap here. I pointed to the hangar door, which is now open. The soldier, the man out of time. He stood up, as Romanov pulled the ship and armed the weapon system. Loki, drop your weapon and stand down. He pointed his staff at us and fired. I jumped out of the plane, shooting a line at the lower side of the plane, and swung myself into the nearest pole, then landed on a lamp just as Cap got sent back to the ground again. I shot a line at him after Captain America kicked him in the face. During the struggle I couldn't see an opening, but as soon as Loki sent Cap flying I threw a web line, taking the scepter from him. Yoink! I said as I grabbed the staff. The spider, he said in excitement. He's the literal embodiment of Tom Hiddleston. I swung myself at me, shooting a line at the ground and a web at his face. He grumbled as he tore the web from his face, only to receive a dropkick. Much to my surprise he got sent 2 feet back, but his hand remained in my ankle and I got thrown towards Cap. I corrected my landing by doing a backflip and landed on my feet, ready to fight in front of Cap. But only for the song Shoot to Thrill began blaring on the speakers of the jet. I looked at my hand and realized I still had the scepter. Loki growled at me, only for a beam to shoot him in the chest and sent him towards a set of concrete steps. Seconds later Iron Man landed. Your choice, Reindeer Games. Iron Man said as he targeted him with a lot of weapons which came out of his armor. Loki's armor and helmet disappeared as he lowered himself and placed his hands in the air. As he did that, all the weapons from his suit retracted back. Mr. Stark. Captain America answered. Captain, Silk. He nodded at us. The aircraft landed and Natasha cuffed Loki. As we got into the jet, Cap sat Loki in the back. Iron Man took off his helmet and Captain removed his cowl. I just took a seat in the bottle of water. Loki kept looking at me. I didn't mind, but he looks like he's trying to figure out a puzzle. After a while we began flying over a few mountains, still over Germany. I don't like it, Steve said in a worried tone. What? Rock of Ages giving up so easily, Tony said in dismissal. I don't remember it being that easy. This guy packs a wallop. Oh God, you speak like an old man, I giggled as I kept my mask. Yes, you were pretty spry, for an older fellow. What's your thing? Pilates? I believe he does, either had that or another thing. That people in the 30s did. What? Steve looks dumbfounded. It's like calisthenics. I nodded and he turned to Steve. You might have missed a couple of things. You know, doing time as a capsicle. Steve just looks out of place and kinda confused. Fury didn't tell me he was calling you in. Yeah, there's a lot of things Fury doesn't tell you, Tony said in a mocking tone. Beside the point, he called everyone in. I said in a matter-of-fact tone. Around us the earth began to rumble. So this is when Thor arrives. I thought to myself. Loki looks on edge. Scared of a little thunder? I'm not overly fond of what follows, Loki said, stressed. Yeah, what the crazy Asgardian said, don't forget the lightning, that's the scary part. Just as I said that something crashes on top of the jet. Everyone looks at each other surprised of what is about to happen. Tony picks up his helmet and places it on as it attaches to the suit and pushes a button that opened the ramp. I just sit back, not really bothering myself to interfere. What are you doing? Cap yells as Iron Man begins to walk towards the ramp, only for Chris Hemsworth lands in wearing medieval armor and a hammer. He punches Iron Man, sending him back to fall on top of Captain, and just grabs Loki and then disappears by flying out. Did that just happen? I asked, dumbfounded, but I didn't really want to intervene on that. Now there's that guy. Iron Man remarks as he steps forward as he stands up. Another Asgardian? Natasha said in confirmation. I think so, the armor he had. That guy's a friendly, Cap says, confused. Doesn't matter. If he frees Loki or kills him, the Tesseract's lost. Iron Man begins walking to the edge of the ramp. Stark, we need a plan of attack. Cap tries to stop him. I have a plan. Attack. Iron Man flies out of the jet and Cap makes for a parachute. Yeah, I'm not going to that. Make sure you stop him, I said as I took a seat. I'd do the same as Silk, and sit this one out, Cap. Natasha does have R. I don't see how I can. Cap answered as he placed his cowl and his parachute in his back. These guys come from legend, they're basically gods, Natasha added. They're what inspired gods. I add as I lie down. There's only one god, ma'ams, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that. Cap just grabbed his shield and jumped head first. You're not going? Romanoff asked me in confusion. Nope, there is a guy that controls lightning. Like something that has the literal temperature of the surface of the sun. I'm not messing with that. I said as I looked towards the direction they jumped. I could see bright flashes of beams and lightning falling from the sky. We pulled in a mountain where Loki was sitting there. Let's get him, but you do it. I don't think I can stay on arm's length. Fine. I said as I stepped out and pulled Loki. You're different. I felt myself tense up and in reflex I shot a web at his mouth. His eyes went wide. I used 2 fingers and stuck them up his nose. There, you can breathe. I pushed him into the jet and he'd necessary? Yes, I only wish I had a taser function that would be totally useful, I said in a sigh, just as I said that Iron Man landed on the jet as well as Thor and Captain America. So who won? I did. All 3 of them said at the same time. Good thing I didn't go, I said as I took a seat. What is the thing he has in his mouth? Thor said in doubt. That's web. Oh, it reminds me of the web of spiders on the caves of Elfheim. Is that organic? Iron Man asked as he looked at the web that is still in the scepter. This one no, the one on his mouth yes. I can produce the liquid that turns into solid in contact with oxygen, but I made these web shooters to have an inorganic form of web. To get extra ammo. It's like having 2 guns, only one is better hidden. I said as I showed the web shooter expands to my hand and the arc reactor in my glove connect to the web shooter powering it up. What is that thing made of? It looks made out of trash, and why is that arc reactor connected to it? Iron Man said in disgust. It's actually made out of an old VCR, an old radio, a small capsule that is used on plastic pellet guns which was expensive, and 2 Hello Kitty bracelets. Also I recreated the arc reactor that I made when I was 11 and made them smaller for focused blasts. I feel insulted to be in front of those things, as well as the presence of those arc reactors, which I can see the duct tape you used. How did you made them small? Beside the point, that's my tech, give it back, Tony said as he pulled off his helmet. I'm the one being insulted, it's not like I like being poor. I barely get by, besides people don't want to hire a 17-year-old studying in a public college. And these 2 arc reactors were made with materials found in the orphanage and trash cans. You made both of these? With what? Also the web thingies are designed based of some of my tech that I've written on. Yes, after all I did read your papers and also watched your conferences on mechanics and electronics. I enjoyed watching the conference, the one where you were drunk. That one was funny and informative. You're 17 and already understand that. Yeah, I also sewed the suit, but overall I enjoy electronics. I do wonder how your arc reactor works. I'm sure I can reverse engineer it if I had a physical copy for a few minutes. Oh, and I have to ask, did you use any of Dr. Banner's theory on overcharged electrons? I asked with an excited voice, because usually people in my college are stupid or I don't have anyone else to talk to except Valerie. No, I didn't. Care to explain? Simple, you overcharge an electron by directly manipulating the magnetization of the poles, leaving a thin line of electrons positioned exactly for a positive charge to well charge them until they overload an energy which in turn makes them magnetized to one end of the walls. Then the imbalance is corrected by the electrons that were only charged react by siphoning the energy that the overcharged electrons had, leaving the overcharged electrons to get demagnetized and return to the center, and then getting a negative charge, repeating the process, creating a loop of increased energy. I'm trying to figure out a way to create infinite energy cycle, but I don't have the resources. I also tripled the cycles enough to get a lot of energy out of the reactors without a dangerous reaction. One of these could power an entire university for the next 300 years. I'm actually impressed. You. Can I see it? Because I have to see how it works. Oh God, he will look at my web shooters and arc reactors, the ones I made. Hell yeah, Team Iron Man all the way. I handed him my left web shooter. He placed it on the glove of his suit and scanned it. He scanned it, IMFANBOYING internally. Or is it fangirling? Nah, this is confusing. He extended his other glove and a 3D projection of my web shooters. He began analyzing them. Oh wow, this is pretty good engineering. The material is pretty cheap. I'm sure if this was made of either titanium or even aluminum, a better conductor would have done the trick for more effective shots as well as more power and precision. He looked at me. He's literally Robert Downey Jr. Well, I don't have the money for that. I'm actually working my ass off. With your knowledge, why are you in a public college? Which one? Community College of NYC. You don't have to hide your cringe, I know you want to. I also want to. I said in disbelief. I have a question, the glow you're outputting, is it normal for the thing to do that? I mean, it's releasing a lot of energy on the chest. No, my system's overloaded thanks to Point Break over there. But my AI is working on the use of stabilizing the systems. Also, is there wires that connect into the reactor in your chest that lead up to the beam things? Actually, I was thinking about that the other day. I have the theory that it could provide more power, but it would drain the energy from the badassium core to the repulsors. Badassium? New element I discovered. Huh, neat. You could use like a connective tube insulated from the outside but with a metal that connects around the repulsors, therefore. It would get rid of the power that the repulsors use, lowering the output of energy used while giving them a bigger damage output. That would totally be awesome. Oh, and what about a suit can be easy to be made like? A suit that can assemble around me without it being necessarily a suit only. Someone who speaks my language. Oh, you should meet Dr. Banner. I can keep up with him in electrical engineering and his researches. I like you, kid. You speak mechanical. What are you studying? Oh, mechanical engineering, and I read in my free time on thesis around electrical fields. Also on new published papers on the use of hydraulics on vehicles and the way to improve them. I know them from front to back. And just like that, we spent around an hour talking about mechanics, which I had the knowledge thanks to my past life, but I also spent a lot of time reading since the subjects and theories were amazing. And please tell me you told Justin Hammer he's an idiot because of his theory on advanced mechanical use of hydraulics was not an advancement, and I think one of my brain cells tried to kill itself. Because that was not advanced at all. I know, and I did. But the one who takes the cake is my girlfriend. She punched him in the jaw. She sounds awesome. I will give her my thanks for that because I was at the last conference on his last expo and sheesh. Wait, I remember you. You were on the ground destroying those drones that were shooting at me. Yes, I was 13. It was actually the same year as I got my powers. So you've had them for 4 years and you haven't used them until a year ago. Why? You could have been helping a lot of people, Captain says. Yeah, but I didn't want to work it as a vigilante. I had my inventions, but I was kicked out of the orphanage and ended up with me on a crappy apartment while I went to college and worked my ass off to get food on my table for a minimum wage job. I tested my limits at the time in an abandoned warehouse on the edge of Manhattan near Queens, where steel beams were left there, and so I took it upon myself to train myself so I could control them better. You don't know how many things I broke when I was in the orphanage. What made you act to save people? A girl. She was around 18. Two guys were about to abuse her, but I couldn't let it happen when I had the power to stop it. So I did it. I stopped a girl from carrying a weight that might have affected her whole life. I came to the conclusion that I don't regret it, on saving someone from suffering. I said with a steeled resolve. Steve has a straight face, but accepting it. Then you're a hero for doing something like that, Steve said with honesty. Indeed, a valiant deed. Not bad for a homeless girl, right? I felt the stares on me. You're homeless? Tony asked at me with a confused look. I realized what I just said. I don't want tone. My face felt red warm, as I waited for us to arrive at the helicarrier once again. No one said anything, making this a really awkward flight. Arriving to the helicarrier was kind of a relief, since I didn't have to share space with them, and slept the rest of the way there. I did receive my inquisitive looks, but I made myself scarce at the attention I received. I mean, it's okay for people to notice me, but not to look at me with pity, never with pity. I find my life is something sad. I'm sad that my life went this way. The life of a person who barely sleeps due to living in an abandoned warehouse. I cannot stay on campus due to it closing. I don't have friends so I can stay there. I'm so tired all the time. I hate how I'm living my own life, or well, this life. We're lead to the bridge where I take a seat as we see how Loki turns to the camera after Fury talked to him. A mindless beast. Makes play he's still a man. How desperate are you, that you call on such lost creatures to defend you? How desperate am I? You threaten my world with war. You steal a force you can't hope to control. You talk about peace and you kill 'cause it's fun. You have made me very desperate. You might not be glad that you did. I zone out as I begin fiddling with the web shooters. Clearly more interesting. I could hear Tony and Coulson talking as I just look at my arc reactor and realize that the Battle of New York will be brutal with a capital RUTAL. I need my equipment in top shape. So I decide to do the right thing and make myself scarce, not really caring for the conversation. Where are you going? Are you bored? I heard the voice of Black Widow. Yes, also there is a lab full of tech that I can use to give maintenance to my equipment, so if you'll excuse me. I could see Black Widow move towards me and stand in front of me. Geez, what's her deal? All you've been doing here is nothing. You're like an outlaw believing you can do whatever the hell you want? I smirked. I'm sorry, did you jump out of a plane and fought Loki? Did you even do anything aside from failing to shoot? Her eyes narrowed as I walked past her, lightly shoving her as I walked past her, making our shoulders bump. Talk about hostility. So Dr. Banner, you speak my language? I walked into the lab after getting annoyed and looking for a bench. I released my web shooters and the arc reactor. I could see a few things that I could use. Grabbing the magnifying glass and a soldering torch and pincers and began on working out the kinks that I knew my web shooters have. I had to remove my gloves so they don't intervene with working. After finishing and switching the wires in the arc reactor, I began repeating the process on the other one, placing them in working condition. After giving both of them a small jolt to kickstart it, the reactors glowed and began working at a higher capacity. How did you do that? I jumped out of my seat and fell to the ground, my back colliding against the ground. Ouch. I could see Tony holding the arc reactor and looking at it from every angle. You improved the output by just replacing metal and wires? He asked, curious. Well, I know them from front to back. I've had the designs for 14 years. I know what is wrong with them and how to improve them. Only thing I need is a better lab. I could see Bruce working in the corner and Tony just seeing what gets his eye. I reinstalled my arc reactors. As Bruce began analyzing the scepter, I moved onto the mechanism on the web shooters. The gamma readings are definitely consistent with Selvig's reports on the Tesseract. But it's gonna take weeks to process. Bruce says aloud as he analyzes the data. I lift my gaze and going back to my work. If we bypass their mainframe and direct route to the Homer cluster, we can clock this at around 600 teraflops. Tony just moved away from the console as I went back to my web shooters. All I packed was a toothbrush. Tony giggled at his joke. I smiled as I zapped myself and hissed but kept working. You know, you should come by Stark Tower sometime. Top 10 floors all R&D, you'd love it. It's a Candyland. You as well. I snort as he pointed at me. He doesn't know that I work in the basement of that place. Thanks, but last time I was in New York I kind of broke. Harlem. Well, I promise a stress-free environment. No tension, no surprises. He zaps Banner in the side. Ow. I raised my head and begin working in the next one. I'm on a clock. I think in 5 minutes this place will go in flames. Hey, are you nuts? I snorted loudly at his expression, which earned me a glare. I just waved my fingers at him, which irked him. It's kinda fun to do this, bothering each and every one of them. And so they began arguing. I finished working on the web shooters, attaching them to my wrists, and felt my silk sense warn me for danger. My eyes moved towards Tony, who chucked a blueberry at me. I catch it between my fingers and I chucked it back, hitting him in between the eyes just for my amusement to see his reaction. I didn't expect that. A warm light for all mankind. Loki's jab at Fury about the cube. I heard it, Steve said as they slowly got to something. Well, I think that was meant for you. Bruce gestures to Tony, who offers him a blueberry. Even if Barton didn't tell Loki about the tower, it was still all over the news. The Stark Tower? That big ugly? Stark gives him a look. Building in New York? It's powered by an arc reactor, self-sustaining energy source. That building will run itself for, what, a year? I kept my ear out for the conversation, which I didn't really care. I just want to go home. Home? Can I call a warehouse a home? It's just the prototype. I snorted loudly. He's behind me by years. I'm kind of the only name in clean energy right now. That's what he's getting at. He glared at me as I clearly got under his nerves. So, why didn't S.H.I.E.L.D. bring him in on the Tesseract project? What are they even doing in the energy business in the first place? I should probably look into that as soon as my decryption program finishes breaking into all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secure files. I'm sorry, did you say? Jarvis has been running it since I hit the bridge. In a few hours I'll know every dirty secret S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever tried to hide. Blueberry? I raised my hand for the blueberry, which got me one delivered into my hand. Thanks. I ate it. Yet you're confused about why they didn't want you around, Steve said. An intelligence organization that fears intelligence? Historically, not awesome. I nodded as I crossed my arms. I think Loki's trying to wind us up. This is a man who means to start a war, and if we don't stay focused he'll succeed. We have orders, we should follow them. Following's not really my style, Tony said in a cocky tone. And you're all about style, aren't you? He's more of a I'm the center of attention, everyone else just stay back. I quipped, which earned me an annoyed look. Out of the people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use? I'm A, but I am on the way to become B. That earned me another glare, which I returned. Steve, tell me none of this smells a little funky to you? Banner tried to defuse the situation. They're obviously making weapons. If you think it's anything else then you're an idiot. Just find the cube. With that he left. I know for a fact that I have to rest tonight. The mess won't start until tomorrow early. How do you know they're making weapons? Banner asked me. Because I checked the notes on the outputs on electrical levels. With that I left the room. You should work for me, Tony yelled out as I just ignored him as I walked out looking for a place to take a nap. I know that by tomorrow everything will go up in flames, and I'm running on little sleep. Oh well, my tech got upgraded, this will do. I awoke yawning at my tired muscles. My stomach grumbled, but I know that it's either MRE or nothing but water. I sighed and adjusted my mask. Looking down I notice I'm still in my hero suit. To be honest, it kinda stinks. I mean, I do laundry on a place near campus. After all, I do keep my secret identity very closely, almost paranoid on it. I feel my stomach kinda empty, but I know for a fact that I didn't sleep that much. For a fact I know I slept for about 4 hours because I know what that feels like. I mean, what I know for a fact is that this day will go to hell in a few hours or minutes, not really sure. But from what I think will happen is that in a few hours things are about to be hell. I think that something isn't right. I mean, reminiscing back to the last few hours, there is a distance between all these people and I do feel the urge to annoy them. I can't believe it, I was being annoying to everyone here, not on purpose, but I'm doing it. Yawning, I decide that I won't get a lot of sleep and walk to the lab. Maybe I can make a way around the arc and make my repulsor shots more narrow, or not. Maybe the attack will happen in a few minutes. I walk into the lab to see Tony and Dr. Banner looking at the screen which says, Access denied, but Tony begins to tap into the keyboard accessing the files to reveal a few secret projects that look like missiles made from Tesseract energy. So they are making weapons, Tony says as a statement. Peef obviously. I say aloud, making my presence known and making Dr. Banner jump in fright. Jesus, you scared me, he says alarmed. I chuckle a bit. Yes, they made weapons with the Tesseract, Tony interjected. You're quite sneaky for being a human. You sure you're part spider? Antlers or more eyes? Nah, would be gross. But if you read the file you could be seen that the output for the cube is too high and recording a really low output is ridiculous. Also calibrations made to the energy output and samples are ridiculously specific down to the giga-decimal. I said as I made my way to the nearest seat as I fiddled with my wrist, because if I'm right, I believe that this is when everyone gets at each other's throats. Fury walks in with Thor, and a second later Romanoff arrives. What are you doing, Mr. Stark? Fury arrives with anger in his eyes. I extend and retract my web shooter, making sure it works correctly. I made my web shooter expansion speed increase by just a second, that will make a difference. I slip in my gloves after leaving them during the few hours of sleep. A slam is heard, but I ignore it as everyone here seems on edge as Fury's plan for making weapons is uncovered. And you don't even care. What are you doing here? Romanoff asks me. Well, I looked forward for the use of a lab. See these? I pointed at my web shooters. Free materials, no garbage from these things. Also, I deduced they were making weapons. It was obvious. For electrical outputs you write until hexadecimals, not gigadecimals. Gigadecimals are for specific outputs. I snorted as I felt a small headache forming, and just like that everyone began aiming at each other's throats. I feel as if it's something else here. My headache increased as what I deduced is my silk sense going crazy. I turned my head to look around. But you don't even deserve to be here with everyone else. You're just a homeless, useless person. I tried to ignore the snap at me from Romanoff. But my headache increased. You can kiss my ass. You're not even enhanced. You're just a good shot, but not as good as the other traitor. I said as I looked around, focusing on sounds around us, making sure that the attack that happens isn't just as much of a surprise as it is. Everyone stops arguing as everyone looks at Banner. In case you needed to kill me. But you can't. I know, I tried. He runs a hand through his hair. I got low. I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out. So I moved on. I focused on helping other people. I was good until you dragged me back into this freak show and put everyone here at risk. You want to know my secret, Agent Romanoff? You want to know how I stay calm? Banner takes the scepter and suddenly everyone tenses up. The room's tension is so thick I can touch it, even I feel tense. Dr. Banner put down the scepter. Steve says aloud, trying to defuse the situation, but got it, Fury said aloud. Sorry, kids. You don't get to see my party trick after all. Dr. Banner exclaimed as he placed the scepter on the located the Tesseract. I can get there faster. Tony makes for the door where I'm standing. I place my leg on the door. Look, all of us, the Tesseract belongs on Asgard. No human is a match for it. Thor said aloud in a clear warning. Stark turns to leave and Rogers holds him back. Yeah, you're not leaving, I said casually as I give him a light glare. You're not going alone. Tony smacks his hand as he takes another step and looks at me and then at Steve. You two gonna stop me? I snort as he glares at us. Put on the suit, let's find out, or if you want we can put you in your place right now. Not like you can hit me. I'm not afraid to hit an old man, or a girl wearing rags. I glared at him. Put on the suit. Steve and I say at the same time, but my headache increases. Oh my god. With that my head made me groan in pain, as my silk sense went through the roof. Shit. I jumped back just as the explosion hit. I was back enough to avoid the damage, but I could see everyone dazed. My headache disappeared. It was the fucking scepter. We need to fix Engine 3, Silk, go with Stark and Rogers, you will be needed there. Fury ordered as he handed me an earpiece. I place it on, and begin following Steve and Stark. As I made my way over there I can see that everyone is getting into positions as alarms blare on my ears. Get to Engine 3, I'll meet you there, Stark says as he walks towards another door. How do we get there? We follow the panic and where everyone is running away from. I answer as we begin running towards the nearest airlock. Steve knocks the door, which gives us the signal that we have the clear. A technician opens the door, as another group carries an injured mechanic. Stark, we're here. I can see the damage. Thanks to our powers we can breathe with a little bit of problems, but it's bearable. Iron Man arrives as he begins flying beside the damaged engine. Good, let's see what we've got, Iron Man says as he places the cooling system back in place. I need you to get to that panel and tell me which relays are in overload position. He points as he flies into the engine through a door he removed. Steve looks at me. I grab him by the hip and throw a web line to a nearby piece of metal that I can use to swing. Don't scream, I say as I swing the both of us into the panel. Steve is eager and rushes over to the panel and pulls it out. Damn, that thing is barely working. What's it look like in there? Iron Man asks as Steve tries to figure out what's happening. It seems to work on some form of electricity, Steve says in a confused tone. You're not wrong, Silk, he says as I make my way to get a closer look. Alright, I can see from the amount of wires, is that from the 12 relays only 9 are overloaded. I can reroute power to the others, since they're about to be turned into a fine black goo if they continue to work like this, or we get blown to hell. Steve looks at me with worry. Silk, I need you to give me at least 2/3 of those relays back in working condition, Iron Man says as he begins to work on the engine. Steve stands to my side. What can I help with? I need you to give me 6 of these things to replace them. They're in a box over there. I point at the box that is in another catwalk just below us. Got it. I begin to work as Steve jumps down, as I begin to redirect the flow from the overloaded ones to the other 3, making sure they work correctly and are not getting turned black. Here. He gave me the 6 replacements. Thanks. I began moving relays. God, whoever made this circuit deserves to get an award for being so stupid. Who the hell doesn't install a way for the system to not overload? It's like they want this ship to go down. I sigh as I place the panel back in place. Full power and a bit of a personal touch there for more power, I say over the comms. What's our next move? Steve adds. I'm going to have to get in there and push, Iron Man says as he pauses. Well, if that thing gets up to speed, you'll get shredded, Steve says as he looks around. Then stay in the control unit and reverse polarity long enough to disengage maglev, and that should allow me to get out in time. English, panel, that wall, red lever. Steve, stay there and wait my signal. Silk, I need you over here. I got taken aback since we're around 11,000 feet into the air. I can stick to walls and surfaces, not flying, I yelled out. I need you to hold things together, he said, annoyed as he ignored me. Oh, that makes sense, I say as I begin to crawl my way into the engine and made my way to the top. Be careful, Cap says as I reach only to see Iron Man pull out a huge metal spike that is embedded in the engine. Iron Man nods at me as he begins to fly. Go. He begins to push the piece of engine that was about to fall. Cap, be ready for my signal. But just as he began to go faster, but the ship destabilized. I begin to hold things together using my web, but we begin to lose altitude, and the weight of the entire engine began to weigh a lot. Cap the lever. I struggled to keep hold of the engine. I only need a little more webs as Iron Man begins to speed up. Need a minute. We don't have one, I say as I throw web balls onto the rotors to hold together the engine. As I use as much web as I can, I make my way out of the open air as it is getting harder to see. I rush into where Steve is and jump, launching myself into the fray, dodging bullets and launching the line to sling myself towards the mercenaries. Landing in front of them beside the door and jumped into the shard embedded in the wall. Shoot her. I jump towards the ceiling and to the wall, jumping along the way, avoiding the bullets, and get a shot into his googles as well as the other mercenaries behind him, and gave me an opening for taking them down. In swift punches I punch them, knocking them down and webbing them up using the web shooters. My silk sense goes off as I duck down in a Matrix-like style, only for Iron Man to tackle him into the ground, knocking him out. Thanks, I say as I take a seat. I feel like my hair has been through a giant hair dryer and am even more stylized than in previous years, and that says a lot about me. I say as I stand up and throw a hand over to Tony, which he reluctantly takes. He then removes his helmet. Agent Coulson is down, Fury says over the comms. A medical team is on its way to your location, someone else says over the comms. They're here. Tony and Cap stand together by the engine, quietly listening, deathly still. They called it. Fury finishes. We looked at each other, and Steve has a sad and haunting look in his eyes, while Tony looks like he can't grasp the situation. I feel a pang in my chest and my eyes water. We weren't friends, he wasn't my superior, but even though I know he's alive, I know that I will never see him again. We can't look at each other in the eyes. I may not have spoken to him in person, but I did spoke to him over the phone every 2 days. I know he didn't die, but it's what we need for them to be united. I walked over to the bridge while the other went other ways. I know Tony will get his suit off him. Walking over to the bridge, I can see Hill with a sad look on her face. Hey, how you holding up? I'm dealing with it. I sigh as I take a seat beside her. Sorry I wasn't there for you. You saved everyone here. Well, I interrupt her. After all, I didn't do much. They saved everyone here. I look around to see agents moving around running diagnostics and other being treated. You helped, she said as she looked straight at my eyes. They're the team, I'm just a passenger. They will stop him, I say in a saddened tone. I don't fit with them, they're legends, I'm just a girl that got powers by chance. They're people with amazing opportunities and abilities. I am just an orphan from nowhere. You're wrong, they're legends, but just like you have saved thousands of lives, reduced crime rate, and you're not a nobody. You're someone, everyone is. I sighed as I reclined back and rested my head on her shoulders. I may be someone, but I think I need to be somewhere else. I have to talk to Widow. I stood up as I began to ponder why I'm here, a question I have made myself over the last 15 years, and the answer is always the same. I am sure that if I said that answer out loud, people would react badly to that. I make sure to hide it well, nobody notices it, but it's not like I hide it away or talk to anyone. Looking through the door in the med wing, I can see the red locks of Widow. I knock on the door softly and open it. Widow looks conflicted, her eyes show doubt. She's not sure what she'll do. It's odd that she has that face, she's always so stoic. What? Her voice is sharp, and just like that all her emotions are gone and locked up. I came here to say sorry. I say honestly, after all I was a bitch to her. I acted like a bitch and a pain in the ass, but it's big and I'm sure I'm not that much of a pain in yours. She rolls her eyes. Yours is just as big. I look behind me to my butt. It's not that big. I'm just teasing you, she said in a flat tone. I smiled behind my mask. It's weird having a mask on for so long now that I think about it. I want us to bury the hatchet, the throwing knife, the gun, bullet. I suppose we can place things behind us and move on. It's what we have to do and work together, so no more of that passive aggressiveness, or well, aggressiveness. Sure. I extended my hand over to her. We can be friends, I think. We can be acquaintances. She replied immediately. I felt a little pang in my chest. I know we can't be friends, but why does it still hurt? Things to worry about later. Get to the bridge. We heard Steve's voice from the comms. I looked over to her, her gaze fell on Barton. I'll go, you can stay here. She nodded and I made my way over to the bridge once again. Steve, Tony, and Fury are gathered at a table, while Hill stands to the side. Fury pulls a handful of cards from his pocket. These were in Phil Coulson's jacket. Guess he never did get you to sign them. Fury threw them on the table. Some are wet with blood and the table gets stained. We're dead in the air up here. Our communications. Location of the cube, Banner, Thor. I got nothing for you. Lost my one good eye. Think I had that coming. Fury begins to make his way around the table to Steve and Tony as I take a seat near them. Yes, we were going to build an arsenal with the Tesseract. I never put all my chips on that number, though, because I was playing something even riskier. There was an idea. Stark knows this, called the Avengers Initiative. Fury reaches a chair between Tony and Steve. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people, see if they could become something more. See if they could work together when we needed them to fight the battles that we never could. Phil Coulson died still believing in that idea, in heroes. Tony stands and walks out. Well, it's an old-fashioned notion. Steve walks after him. So we gonna talk now? I ask as I turn towards him. Why didn't you tell me anything? About what? Me living on the streets or the fact that I live in misery? Both. I worry about you. You worry because I am powerful enough to lift a bus over my head like it's nothing. You want to keep me close to you. I'm sure that if you knew about me when I was on the orphanage with my powers, you would have sent some government agents to get me and either lock me in a cell or become part of your super footage crew. I'm right. He sighed loudly. Fine, yes, if I would have known about you I would have taken you in a heartbeat. But, I would have asked what you wanted to do. But right now that doesn't matter, get ready to go after Loki. How are you so sure I'm going? I'm nobody, as I've said before, they're legends. I'm just someone from nowhere. I replied as nonchalantly as I could. You have to go, he said as his gaze landed on the door. Silk. Time to go. Steve's voice sounded in the bridge, making my body jump in fright as if ready to help. Sup? You moving out? Good luck. I say as I take my seat, placing my feet on the other chair. What are you talking about? We're the Avengers and you're part of the team. Steve. No, Captain America said in a commanding voice. He doesn't know it, but he just made me a public figure. I can't help but obey his orders. Alright, I said as I got up and looked straight at Fury while following Cap. Suit up, meet us near the hangar bay, he said as he walks away, from what I assume is his gear and the rest of us. Walking into the lab to see Tony finishing his touches on his helmet. Launching web at the cameras in the room. I walk straight to the table holding chemicals, and just as I've done a few hundred times I make my webs, making sure to do 3 bottles, from which I use half of one to refill my web shooters. I have to make the cartridges, but I don't have enough tech or materials to do. Ready, Tony says as he takes the helmet and places it on and looks at me as I finish refilling my web shooters. I nod my head towards him. Let's go, I say with as much courage as I can. We're about to fight for our lives and I'm nervous. My heart is bouncing in my chest, and I'm ready to go. I wait by the hangar bay door, my equipment ready as well as the 2 bottles of web that are makeshift bombs. They will help in some way during the fight. I see Cap walking beside him as Hawkeye and Black Widow. I join them walking beside Widow to the nearest Quinjet, which I learned the name a few minutes ago from mechanics talking about them. You guys are not allowed in here. A tech who's looking into a tablet says aloud. Son, just don't. Cap sighs. He outtranks you, so get out, I say, and he shrinks down and leaves the Quinjet. Everyone strap in, we leave in 20. Hawkeye takes the pilot and Widow the co-pilot. I look behind us to see Iron Man walk towards us. The armor is banged up to hell, but it should fly. He nods towards us as the hangar door closes. Cap looks at me, reassuring my doubts on the upcoming battle. I strap in the same spot I've taken over the last day. I'm moving ahead, follow me. We stay on the same frequency. I set up your comms for that, Iron Man says over the comms as we take off behind him. Copy that, we're right behind you, Hawkeye says over the comms, and Iron Man speeds up. I'm going ahead, need to get my Sunday best, Iron Man says as he disappears into the clouds. We reach New York from the sea and the comms return from the radio silence from Iron Man. What, did you stop for drive-through? Swing that park, I'm gonna lay him out for you, he says as he gives us a location. Steve gets up from his seat, I follow suit. The Quinjet begins shooting. I can see some Chitauri get blown to hell. The Quinjet comes around a building, blasting the army who are firing at them. But Widow gets rid of them, until we reach the top of the Stark Tower where Thor and Loki are fighting. Only for Thor to get head-butted and thrown back. Loki just lifts his scepter and shoots at the rotor blades. Oh come on, I say aloud as we begin to lose control. I grab the nearest armrest and stick myself to the floor as we begin a descent into the ground while Cap is just hanging barely. We end up embedded into the cement on the street. Both spies just removed their seatbelts like that just didn't happen. So, I'm never getting on a plane with you guys. Hawkeye pushes the button to open the door. The screams of civilians and police sirens fill our ears as we run outside. We gotta get back up there, Cap orders as we take the bridge in front of the city hall. All 3 of us stop as a roar sounds from above, and only for one of those things that carry more Chitauri flies in, destroying a part of a building and flies above us, releasing Chitauri. Stark, you seeing this? Cap says over the comms. But the units just keep coming. I'm itching to just jump and start punching those things. I tune them out as I launch a web line to stop one of those things from shooting a man in a suit at point blank. I pull him in with as much strength as I can. I punch him, breaking his neck and ripping off his jaw. Get to the subways, avoid streets. You got this here? Cap says as he jumps over the bridge using his shield as a cover and killing Chitauri using his shield. I'm covering the skies. I'll save as many as I can. I say over the comms as I begin to run as fast as I can and jump into the nearest building, sticking my feet to the walls and take off running as fast as I can. As one Chitauri soldiers was about to shoot a group of civilians, I move fast and punch him, denting his helmet, making him slump down to the ground. I shot a web at the face of another one. Ducking low from a shot, I charge up my blasters and place a shot in his chest, making a hole, and aim at the other one who just ripped off the web from its face just in time for a shot from my blaster to the head. I look around to see if there are more Chitauri. I reach over to see a man lying down while other people make themselves known by standing up. I reach over to him and flip him around, placing him lying on his back. I put my fingers on his neck to feel a pulse. "He's alive, help him get out of here," I say aloud, making everyone nod. "TT, thank you." A woman formally dressed reaches over to me and 3 help to carry the man out of here. I place a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, we will get through this. Everyone, get to the subway and move as a group. Here." I give one staff to the guy standing in the corner. "Pull the trigger and aim at the aliens. The rest, I'll cover your exit." I yell out as I jump out the window and land on top of another Chitauri, making work of my blasters to shoot them, getting headshots. I can see Cap still running through the street while plasma beams rain down around him and near civilians. I begin to swing myself onto the street, shooting at Chitauri that come near civilians. As a bus blows up, I see Cap jump up. I come in and take his hand as I swing by. "Need a hand?" I drop him off in front of the cops as I begin to work on lifting wreckage from people trapped, as well as launching webs onto the sky. "Silk, get to the building on the right, clear the entrance," he said as I jump away, shooting blasts at more the Chitauri on the street. I rush in and dispatch the Chitauri fast and effectively. "Get to the police, and off the streets," I announce as I run back outside to see Cap running. I swing myself, gaining altitude. He jumps, extending his hand. I grab it and we're back in the street. Just below Stark Tower, Cap uses the momentum to crash into the Chitauri advancing on Hawkeye and Widow. Just as we continue fighting, I can see the increase in numbers. I keep launching webs, throwing debris at them, slowing them down as I kill one after the other, as soon as more advance towards us. Only for lightning to fall down on them and killing them. Not a second later, Thor lands, clutching his side. "What's the story upstairs?" Cap asks as he lowers his shield. I walk towards Thor and shoot a web at his side. "That should help you," I say with a smile. He nods at me as he moves his arm around. The power surrounding the cube is impenetrable. Thor turns towards us, expecting an order. Thor is right. "We gotta deal with these guys," Stark announces over the comms as explosions sound around him. "How do we do this?" Widow asks as she holds her gun. "As a team," Cap says with confidence that I wish to have one day. "I have unfinished business with Loki." Thor is clearly pissed. "Oh yeah. Get in line. Hawkeye, pre it. Loki's gonna keep this fight focused on us, and that's what we need. Without him these things could run wild. We got Stark up top, he's gonna need us to." He stops mid-sentence as we hear a motor of an old scooter where Banner is just arriving. We walk over and Banner dismounts while looking around. "So, this all seems horrible." Dr. Banner keeps looking around as explosions sound around us. "I've seen worse," Widow remarks with a bit of snark. "Sorry." His gaze goes to the floor, but after a second looks straight towards us. "No, we could use a little worse." Widow looks, dare I say, bashful. So she did develop a crush on Banner. "Stark, we got him," Cap's voice sounded over the comms. "Banner, just like you said. Then tell him to suit up. I'm bringing the party to you." Iron Man flies around a corner and towards the group, followed closely by the same giant thing that flew over us. "I don't see how that's a party." Widow is wide-eyed. Iron Man draws the creature low and it skims the road. Banner turns and begins to walk away, towards the Leviathan. "Dr. Banner, now might be a really good time for you to get angry." "That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry." With a roar of anger, he slams his newly transformed fist into the gaping maw of the beast, nearly stopping it completely. Punching it a few more times, the behemoth flips over completely. "Hold on." Iron Man flies over and shoots what I can tell is an anti-tank rocket and embedded itself in flesh. "Call it, Captain," he says as he hovers over us. "All right, listen up. Until we can close that portal, our priority is containment. Barton, I want you on that roof. Eyes on everything. Call out patterns and strays. Stark, You got the perimeter. Anything gets more than 3 blocks out, you turn it back or you turn it to ash. Silk gets civilians to safety and block streets and intersections in the sky, hinder their movement using your webs. He says as he points at the members mentioned. Can you give me a lift? Hawkeye asks Stark as I begin to place web lines as wires among buildings. Right. Better clench up, Legolas, Stark replies. Thor, you got to try and bottleneck that portal. Slow them down. You got the lightning. Light the bastards up. He orders. He turns to Widow. You and me, we stay here on the ground. We keep the fighting here, and Hulk, smash. Copy that, Captain America. I said as I take a look around, analyzing for where could civilians be. A run using my speed and strength in my legs to jump and gain an altitude of 4 stories up and begin to swing around. I use my web to pull myself and angle my body so that I'm spinning, avoiding shots that would have taken my head. I can feel everything slow down as I shoot a web line at the face of the Chitauri driving the sleigh-like thing. He claws at his face as he speeds past me. I pull the web line, making his head snap in my direction. The web line does catch another Chitauri sleigh thing, making a crunching noise as the second driver's neck cracks, making both sleighs to crash and blow up. That's that. I say as I begin to make more lines like that, taking out a few along the way that aren't able to see the web lines. Iron Man, Silk, they can't bank worth a damn. Find a tight corner. Following my own, or technically Hawkeye's advice, I do just that and cause several of them to crash into a building. Roger that. Hey, it worked. What else you got? Stark replied. Silk, I got a read on a distress call, 2 blocks down. Chitauri are holding people inside the bank on 42nd. Iron Man said over the comms. On my way. I swing in and crash through the window, kicking the head of the Chitauri, aiming at the civilians that were rounded up. I take aim with my blaster and shoot at the head of a Chitauri that smacked a woman, pushing her down. Hey, over here. Every Chitauri turned to me as I shot at the same Chitauri, blowing his head up, making a hole. Everyone became silent as the Chitauri took aim at me. I jumped out of reflex as the shots almost hit me. I axe kicked the head of one, making a dent in his head. I jumped again using my webs and catching the ceiling, swinging to the other side as he took out a device that looks oddly like a C4. But before he could do anything and made a shot at his head, he dropped dead with a hole in his head, but out of his hand fell a grenade. I could hear Iron Man flying outside as he passed. Oh crap. I threw a web line and made sure to throw it out the window. As it went through the glass, I shot at it out of the air, making a big explosion followed by other crashes. Thanks, Silk. No problem. I said as I walked over the edge to see the civilians, but my Silk sense warned me of danger. Behind you. I could hear a kid yell out. I ducked from a swipe, and as he tried to stab me with his bayonet, I grabbed it and ripped it from him before I took a shot at his chest, followed by a kick that sent him through a wall. I could hear a cheer behind me. I looked over to the civilians. Is everyone here safe? I yelled out. I jumped down and people moved out of the way. He's hurt, as well as her. A man that has the clothes of a nurse said aloud as both people were clearly in pain. I have no way for treatment, the wounds need pressure. I knelt down. I will use my webs to close the wound. It should help to keep the pressure as well as the wound closed. I shot web at the wounds using my web shooters. There. Everyone, I will cover you. Police should be arriving soon. I will keep you safe. I said with determination. I jumped to the window I entered before. I heard clapping behind me. I had a smile on my face as I swung myself out the building. I land over the main street as Iron Man flew in and shot at Cap's shield, making his repulsor blasts bounce off and shoot into the rest of the Chitauri around him, taking them down. I jump over Iron Man as he acts as a jump board for me. I shoot at a Chitauri behind Cap as well as a few on the roof near Hawkeye. Cap, shield! I yell out as 5 land around me. I shoot the web line at it and pull, hitting a Chitauri in the face, followed by a clang. I pull to the side and spin, taking the rest out. Before I launch it back at Cap, the web fell out as he caught it. I hear another screech. I nod at Cap as once again I'm swinging, looking for the giant thing in the sky. I can see it. It's making its way towards the hospital on 6th. I'm going to catch it. Attention. Get to me when available. I take out the bottle of web and shake it in my hand. I land on its sharp-teethed mouth and punch at it with my hand as hard as I can, breaking the entire front of its teeth. I hate this. I punch again, breaking his nose, or what looks like a nose, and drop the bottle in its mouth, but it just got angrier as it thrashed. Guess I have to use the other one. I can take it down. I yelled over the comms as an idea got to me. I jumped and landed on its head by throwing a web line and shot a blast shot as long as I could. After 15 seconds the beast was now screeching in pain. I punched, making a dent in the armor and flesh. As the smell filled my nose I punched, earning me a sting in my hand, but I dropped the second bottle into his brain, which now has an open way for air. I shoot the bottle and jump out of the way, landing on the side of the building. The beast falls limp on top of a building. I make my way to the top of the "Well done, Lady of Silk." Thor lands beside me. "Thanks, I just need a few seconds," I say, but he just nods at me and flies away. I catch my breath. God, this is tiring. I look to see that both reactors are useless, and my right web shooter is busted due to the reactor's energy. Also, both cartridges are empty. "Silk, I need help over here," Hawkeye said as I made my way towards him. "Guys, we need to end this quickly. I'm running out of web." I jump off the building swinging myself and make my way over, only to see Hawkeye jumping. I swing myself towards him and catch him. We swing down just enough for Hawkeye to kick a Chitauri in the head, killing him, and he let go only to land on top of a Chitauri's him like a surfboard, which ended with him in the ground beside Cap. "Thanks," I heard in the comms. I swing over only to see the hospital that is near get a broken window and a Chitauri enter, it followed by a child screaming. "I'm moving into the hospital, it's under attack," I said as I swung using my natural web since I have busted both web shooters and arc reactors. I looked closely to see a little girl that is connected to the tubes with a transparent liquid on a bed cowering from the Chitauri that just entered. I crashed through the window with both feet first, but I was late to take the girl to safety. My silk sense went crazy as I stood on front of the girl and received the blaster like a champ, which sent me into the wall. I stuck myself and looked over to the Chitauri. He was ready to shoot again, but this time I moved. Launching myself at him, I punched him in the face as hard as I could, sending it through the wall. I looked to the window to see another one entering through the window, which made the girl scream. I webbed the pole which had the transparent liquid and smacked its face only to daze him, which gave me the opportunity to punch him in the face, sending him flying and into another of those flying bike things. I webbed the window so no more could enter through there. "Ouch," I said as I took a step. I touched my side to feel the damage. I could see my suit got a hole as well as blood on my fingers. "Are you okay?" the little girl said in a scared voice, which reminded me to just smile and make her not worry. Heroes can't seem weak unless in front of children. "Yes, I'm super strong, so this is a scratch," I said in a nonchalant voice, which made the girl smile. "That's amazing. Come on kid, time to go. I'll keep you safe," I said as I took her and the metal tube that is connected to her, and placed the girl in my arms. I ran to the stairs looking to my sides looking for a doctor, but there is no one on this floor. I arrived to the stairs and looking I could see light and a lab coat at the bottom. 6F, alright, 6 floors. I jumped in the middle. The girl yelled in what I assume is fright, but I landed on the 4th floor rail. I repeated the process and landed on the 2nd, followed by landing on the 1st floor where the lab coat was. A doctor jumped in fright. He held a pristine medal that looked like a piece from the one I am carrying. "Doctor, this girl, make sure she's safe." I handed the girl to him. "Thank you," the doctor said as he took the girl. I ran to the exit to the mayhem and see a bakery get its glass shattered by 2 Chitauri jumping in and begin shooting. I ran and jumped, calculating to enter through the window. Landing between them, I just kicked the head of one, which turned into another direction that didn't seem natural. The baker, a man that seems scared, is just standing there with his eyes wide opened. I feel my silk sense go crazy, but I'm standing between the baker and the laser. I turned around and received the other laser. "Fuck." I groaned as I shot a web at the face of the Chitauri and smacked it with a nearby metal plate for what I assume is bread, followed by a punch that broke his face. "That one hurt," I said as I began shooting web at the window for cover. "Sir, stay here. I'm going to block off the entrance. You get out the back door to the police or military," I said. He just nodded and walked to the back. I came out once again. It feels like 15 minutes have passed. Jumping onto the building and made it to the 3rd floor and swung myself towards the city hall only to get shot by one of those bike things in the back. I crashed near Thor and Cap as Cap was standing up. "So anybody know what our medical insurance policy is? Because I sure as hell want to sue our contractor." That brought a smile to Cap's face. Thor looks more confused. Round 3. I confirmed as more Chitauri kept coming. I received a punch to the face, which I retaliated by webbing him and began using it to hit other with it. I launched him as the enemies died down a bit. Guys, we can close it. We can close the portal down. Does anyone copy? Widow asks over the comms. Do it, Cap orders as he holds his hand to his ear. No, wait. Iron Man almost yells over the comms. Stark, these things are still coming. Cap says as I receive another blast to the back. Damn, my silk sense is getting duller and I'm getting more tired. I got a nuke coming, gonna blow in less than a minute. And I know just where to put it. Iron Man announces over the comms. I walk towards Thor, Cap and Hawkeye holding my side. Not even 10 seconds pass when Iron Man flies over us with a nuke on top of him. He flies it over to the Stark Tower and into the portal. 10 seconds pass as the silence becomes deafening. Only for a faraway boom breaks it off. But no Iron Man, I know he's falling, coming this way. I jump upwards. Close it. I hear it over the comms as I watch closely, focusing on the shape of Iron Man. The portal closes as if it was never there, but the shape of Iron Man begins to free fall. I calculate and begin using as much of the web as I have left. I run out. Hulk appeared and tackled Iron Man out of the way and soon crashed into the web and even broke the web out of the concrete, but the landing was graceful. I reclined myself as I hear the yell of Hulk and make my way down. The entire Chitauri already fell to the ground like puppets. We won, Steve said as he relaxed. I landed beside them and saw the Hulk looking straight at me. Not knowing what to do, I raised my fist in a fist bump. Only for Hulk to just smirk in a snort and fist bump me. I adjusted my mask and sighed in relief. All right, yay, hooray. Good job, guys. Let's just not come in tomorrow. Let's just take a day. Have you ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it, Tony said as he was lying down. We're not finished yet, Thor says in a relieved tone of voice. And then shawarma after. Tony finishes. Silk, a little help here. I stop gawking and at the busted up armor. After restarting his arc reactor and easily booting up a few systems, Iron Man could move again in his suit. Alright, that should get you and someone else to the top part of the building, flying not more not less, I said as I closed up the chest piece. Good, he said as he offered a hand, but Steve took it. I touched Hulk's arm and climbed onto his back. I need a ride, I said. He just snorted as I stuck myself to him. Everyone took off to the top of the tower where Loki was. Hawkeye took Thor's hand and we were off. Everyone landed on the top where the A was the only thing there. We arrived to see Loki slowly getting up and he looks beaten the F up. If it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now, he said as he looked towards us in surrender. Everyone had their weapon in hand. In I think 30 minutes S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arrived and took Loki, the scepter, and I had my wounds treated. Even Hill came to me and even returned me my phone and wished me a happy birthday, but had to leave after Loki was secured as well as the scepter. I shoot him the last webs I had. I actually came out empty as I fired the last one. So that happened, I said aloud as Loki just narrowed his eyes at me. Loki is now with cuffs and webs just bind his hands. What is with that? Tony said as the last piece of his armor came off, and Dr. Banner made himself scarce to find clothes. Well, since I ran out of web fluid, I used the last of my natural webbing, I said as I wiggled my fingers. How do you get web made? Steve asked. Eating, and yesterday I only ate once and a billionaire just invited us to something called shawarma. Whatever that is, I said as I motioned to go. Let's go, Tony said as he made his way to the elevator now that agents took Loki into custody to get sent to Asgard once again. We arrived to the small store and Tony yelled out his order. The entire establishment only had a few pieces of rubble and glass lying around. The cook looked least. But after a full minute of gawking, I ordered as much food as I could eat. Thor did the same. So we just saved New York. Yes, we just did. Nice job everyone, Cap reassured. It's been a long time since I ran out of arrows, Hawkeye said in a serious tone. Come on, it's been what, 4 months? Natasha just teased. Oh right, Silk. Cindy Moon, I said just enough for everyone in the table to hear. Anyway, Cindy, happy birthday. Natasha wished me happy birthday, she said in a cheerful tone. No way, is our little vigilante 18? Barton said in chuckle. "I didn't get you anything," Steve said almost apologetically. "It's okay, I never receive anything. But it's been the first time someone remembers." I felt tired but emotional as well. It's been 14 years since I got a happy birthday. We didn't celebrate them in the orphanage. I cursed my birthday with hate. After all, it was the day my life on that hell started. "Well, I will give you something, later, happy birthday." "Thank you, Mr. Stark," I replied. Tony, Mr. Stark was my dad. "Happy birthday, Miss Moon. Thanks, Dr. Banner." "Bruce," he said with a small smile. "So widow," I was about to ask, but her eyes told me I said the incorrect thing. "Natasha, right?" She nodded. "Alright, so Natasha, how did you get up the tower?" I said in curiosity, which made her smirk. "Because I don't remember you flying." And with that we began talking about what everyone did. Obviously Tony boasted of carrying a nuke into the hole and what he saw. I told my story of how I took down what I learned is called a Leviathan. Soon after we were on first name basis and joking around as we began eating. I lowered my mask and the food kept arriving as Thor and I kept eating. "You mortals and your food, it's so full of fat. And it's delicious," I said as I finished the falafel of lamb, which was after the fourth shawarma of turkey. "Thanks for the food, it was amazing," I said to the cook, which earned me a smile. I suddenly felt muted, as if the world trunked gray. My eyes dropped as I realized what just happened. I felt my wounds sting, but I know that in a few hours I will be healing as well as alone once again. I once again feel that despair that has been plaguing me for the last few months. Not having a home is not easy. It's hard actually not having something to call your own. But I quickly put on the same face, hoping I didn't caught the attention of anyone. I passed my eyes quickly to see no one staring at me. I failed to notice a subtle movement from Natasha to Barton as well as their wordless conversation. "It's time we leave," Cap said as he got up. Everyone followed. I set up my mask and adjusted it. "Wait, can we get a picture?" I heard from the waitress and the cook who was holding a camera. "Sure," Cap said. He was motioned to the wall that had the logo of the restaurant. Everyone followed. Steve held his shield in front of him. Tony stood beside him, his hands in his pockets. Clint crossed his arms and shot a smirk at the camera. Natasha pulled her bitch face that isn't bothered by anything. Bruce just stood there awkwardly. Thor smiled as he held his hammer. I was urged to get in the picture as I was reluctant. "Wait, can you get a picture for me?" I gave her my phone with the camera, noticing it has 10% of the charge. It's a cheap camera, but for a group picture it should be enough. I was pulled by Steve. I stood beside Bruce and Thor and forced myself to smile as I stood in a relaxed pose. She took a few pictures and we were on our way. Everyone went to the tower to see what we were to do. Turns out we had to be later that day on Central Park for Thor's departure as well as Loki's. I got provided with a few clothes that were from Pepper Potts. Holy crap, these are expensive. I am wearing casual pants that seem too formal, as well as a button-up gray shirt, as well as my sneakers and my scarf. I take a ride with Tony and Bruce towards Central Park, where Steve arrives in an old school bike, Clint and Natasha as well as Thor arrive in an armored van and unload with Loki, who is in shackles and a muzzle. No one said a word, as Thor just nodded towards us and held the Tesseract in a container. That is an Infinity Stone, holy crap. And just as Thor turned the handle, he vanished as energy passed by him and Loki and disappeared. Just like that, he was gone. Steve walked over towards Tony and giving him a handshake. I walked towards him and shook his hand and a hug which made him freeze. I jabbed his side playfully with a small laugh I forced out of me. I shook Tony's hand and gave a small hug to Bruce. After that I walked over to Natasha, offering my hand. After all the friction we had, we came to an agreement. She smirked as she shook my hand. I walked over to Clint, who just smiled warmly and gave me a hug. I felt a touch on my shoulder as Natasha gave me a narrowed glance with her eyes. I looked at her questionably but shrugged and made my way to the city. I had to check on my stuff. In my pockets are my arc reactors busted down to hell as well as my web shooters. Everyone left their ways. Natasha and Clint in a black van, Steve left on his bike, and Tony and Bruce in the car we arrived in. I placed my scarf on my neck and disappeared into the park, making my way over to the warehouse. But it would take me a while since it's really far. My smile dropped. As my gaze lowered, I felt everything dim down, and only two words sounded in my head. Useless, loneliness.